Give any. Hello, so the next section, we're going into the next section. Carla, where are you, please? Hello, so I hope you had a good tea break. You enjoyed the meal. So, are you back? If you're back with us, say hey, hey. These guys are not back, they're still on tea break. They've been discussing with Patricia, the meeting provider. They look at me. We are back. We are back. So if you're with us, please say hey, hey. Are you here? Did you enjoy your tea break? Yes. So we're going to the next section, but you guys don't know. Ooh. Please, we're going to the next section of discussion. Obina, are you here? Are you ready? You will know Obina. The CBA president, please get ready for this section. So the next section of the growing domestic talent to position Nigeria for global competitiveness. And we have the moderator being Obina Iwuno, and we have Indifrike from House of Africa. Please give a clap offering. The president of CBA will be moderating this section. Please clap for this section. Please be active. You just pay. Well, this food, now paid one. We paid, so now we get energy. So show me that you have energy after consumption. We want to go now to production, from consumption to production. So please clap for Nita, please. Please give a big round of applause to Nita. Please. We are going from, you guys have consumed now, let's go to the production, which is dialogue. So please clap for Nita. Clap for Nita. Show us that you just ate and consumed energy. This out now. Can I just consume this food? I don't want to show workings. Okay, I think we'll take a record for the lunch break. We will not allow you guys consume much. So Obina Iwuno, where are you, please? Obina Iwuno. Obina Iwuno, please come. You're the moderator for this next section. Discussion, growing domestic talent to position Nigeria for global competitiveness. We also have Mohamed Jeba from Dominion Blockchain. Mohamed Jeba, please, where are you, please? I think you're still outside. Arizo Kako, please, you can come about. You're moderating this section. Please go there. Please, don't worry. Please come in. Mohamed Jeba, please, in different here, please come in. Please, Senator Yenya, are you here with us? Okay, Mohamed Jeba, welcome, sir. And Arizo, thank you, and I'll be handing over to the president of CBA, Obina Iwuno. Hello.
Hello everyone, good afternoon, and you are welcome to this segment where we will be discussing growing domestic talents to position Nigeria for global competitiveness. Right. So on the stage with me here are three wonderful panelists, Mr. Ifreke Okubo, Mr. Mohamed Jega, and Mr. John Arize Okafor. Please, can you just take 30 seconds to introduce yourself to our audience? Start with you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Please meet all of you. My name is Stakeholder. I'm one of the co-founder of House Africa. At House Africa, we have a flagship product called Stakeholder, where we use maps to be able to help real estate developers to provide them with an opportunity to help their customers visualize what they're doing. And that includes visualizing the location, how to interact with the property. Apart from that, we also use the blockchain to register the transactions that happen on each of those real estate developers' transactions. To date, we have over 100 developers using our solution across the country. We digitize over 11,000 acres of land. That's about the size of the Kenya. And of course, we are progressing to seek policies that will help make this even more national.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for having me today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammed Prime. I'm a co-founder with the Dominion Blockchain Solution. What we do at Dominion is we help government and businesses transition from traditional data to blockchain. I'm a serious advocate of blockchain for almost 5 years. Part of the project we've done is around credential verification solution, cargo tracking in Sierra Leone, land registry in Nigeria, and also we're trying to do identity Guinea-Conakry as well as Nigeria. So most importantly, we are very excited about this conversation going on today because we believe government and industry collaboration is key to the development of this ecosystem. The private sector can't do it alone, and we are excited to see NIDA embracing this because NIDA has been a very strong backbone in this in terms of project we've done on supporting training 30,000 Nigerians of blockchain, which we did last year, and also giving us a day to host a blockchain day, which is very critical for the government to know that the industry, what the industry is doing, and giving them a space to come and play and talk about what they want to do. So I'm happy to have a conversation today to see how we can take this to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rinze Okafor. The co-founder and CEO of OTTech. OTTech is a blockchain fintech company building financial operating system on blockchain for Web3 platforms. We are a startup, and also I double as the Vice President Policy and Regulation of CBAN. As you know, this engagement wouldn't have been possible today without collaboration of CBAN with the NIDA. And over years, I've been in the industry, and as a part of the founding member of CBAN, we have contributed our quota to see that we get to where we are today, and we continue pushing till we get to the perfect height where we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So what we are discussing on this panel is how to grow domestic talents to position Nigeria for global competitiveness. Of course, my boss Ibrahim Jega has talked about the NIDA training of 30,000 students, of which I was at the graduation ceremony, and I also mentioned here. So we want to look at what can be done further, to strengthen this push, because if we want to adopt blockchain technology, if we want blockchain technology implementation, there must be that pool of talents that is available to serve and innovate on blockchain. So my first question will be going to you, Mr. John Arinze. What are the current strengths and weaknesses of Nigeria's domestic talent pool in the field of blockchain technology, and how can this be leveraged and addressed to enhance the country's global competitiveness?
Okay, thank you. If you ask me of strength, I will only say that the strength we have presently is that we are early, at early stage in the terms of advocacy for adoption of blockchain compared to some nations of the world. And I believe that apart from that, another strength we are going to look at is the government participation now, which we believe and we look forward that is going to yield a significant result in pushing the industry forward. That is for strength. But for weakness, I will tell you that we have a whole or a truckloads of weaknesses in the terms of our talent pool in the industry. And starting from our educational system and our educational background, which is practically or totally obsolete. Obsolete in the sense that you see that majority of people who are in the industry are people who are not coming from tech backgrounds. And the person who studied economics in the university and is coming to venture into tech, it's not going to be easy for him. Even if he has that desire to become a blockchain developer, it's not going to be easy for him. There are a lot of challenges he's going to face. Now, also in our system, the educational system, we know that STEM, which talks about mostly engineering, right, technology, is not well being taken care of or considered in our school system, right, compared to the other clients around the world. So this is one of the things that's creating challenges in the industry. So anybody that even has the desire to come into the industry as to be a developer or to build products, the person is coming with a challenges already based on his academic and educational background. Another thing that I believe that is one of the challenges is the societal pressure. Societal pressure in the terms of how people perceive anyone who is indoor working, right? Police will harass you. When they see you with laptop, they say, this is one of the Yahoo boys, right? And until the recent NSAS program, right? Lagos was so tough for anyone who is doing blockchain business, right? You can't even step out of your house. So sometimes they will bust into your apartment. These are one of the things that makes people, discourage people to even come into this space, right? Another one is also, you find out that there are some people who intentionally want to come into the system, right, to build. But because there is no regulation, and also the way the industry has been operating so far, instead of the person focusing on creating value, he will be chasing the hype. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I will throw this second question to Mr. Jega. So, in what ways can the Nigerian blockchain community collaborate and share knowledge to accelerate learning and adoption of blockchain technology across various industries?
Thank you so much. Blockchain as a technology itself has defined what the use cases can be. And most importantly, to see how you can be able to collaborate. That's a critical sector because industry and government collaboration is very key for developing a viable ecosystem, as well as the academia. So the ways we need to develop this industry is around setting up research institutes, R&D centers, right? And looking at maybe universities, picking up some strategic universities in geopolitical zones, setting up R&D centers whereby can become the breeding ground for testing, coming up with POCs, and that because universities are academic environment and they are good for building capacity, as well as infusing the curriculum, blockchain curriculum in computer science, because computer science is big. A lot of people say, I'm reading computer science. But if you tell them, what specific area are you specialized at? No specific. So we need to see how we can be able to collaborate with the industry, with the academia, to utilize this, to infuse blockchain curriculum into some of their courses. Because we've done similar thing with Bayes University in Abuja, where we did curriculum modeling. It took us a year to do that. we set up an experience center in Bayes University because it's one of the foremost private universities in West Africa that is tech inclined, that utilize technology to build their processes. Everything is automated within the school. And we find it as a very strategic university because it's in the heart of Nigeria as well. That's two advantages. Thirdly, it's growing. It has been there for over a decade. It has a success story of different things that it has achieved. So the other part is around building, helping blockchain communities, right? The likes of CBAN, the likes of BNUG. Look at what they're doing. The government should look inward on what they're doing and try to create a support structure around them in times of engaging them, right? In coming up with maybe hackathons, activities around several use cases. Maybe it can be use cases around security. What can you guys come up with around security? What are the cases that we have? Maybe in finance, right? If the government has engaged the community, the blockchain ecosystem, in building that, wouldn't have been where we are with the in-era, saying that we do it. Because what they did was like, we have several interesting solutions and founders that can build better solutions. But lack of that engagement has created that gap. Thirdly, is to identify hubs. If there is none, the government should create it in several regional places. Tech hubs, likes of Conversity, what they're doing, right? Identify blockchain hubs who are focused on blockchain, not any kind of hub, right? Engage those hubs to train blockchain developers, right? To understand the mechanics of blockchain, to understand the real segmental issues of blockchain, because most of the gaps we have is a lot of our so-called blockchain experts have a mismatch. They have a mismatch. Most of them are crypto traders, and they call themselves blockchain founders. Crypto trader. A crypto trader is going to say a blockchain founder. So there's a mismatch.
Yes.
So I've done a lot of engagement, and I've gotten those facts. So I'm speaking based on experience. So we need to do that, but the government engages hubs to train these founders, give them the right skill to understand the mechanism of blockchain, and certify them so that they can earn global, because they can earn wherever they are.
Very, very well said, sir. I will come back to you on that because you made a very, very important point here. You know, people always misunderstand blockchain for cryptocurrency for blockchain. Cryptocurrency is not blockchain, and blockchain is not cryptocurrency. You know, they are two distinct things. Cryptocurrency is a byproduct of the blockchain technology. And that is why you see that we want people to understand the real intrinsic value, the main fundamental, which is blockchain technology, because blockchain technology is like a bakery. Cryptocurrency may be changing inside, not even bread. You know, so there is a lot we can do with blockchain technology beyond cryptocurrency. All right? But yes, let's move on to that. All right, so my third question is going to you, Ifreka. In what ways can the Nigerian blockchain community collaborate and share knowledge to accelerate learning and adoption of blockchain technology across various industries?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think I'll try to paint the picture of why this is even very important. If you look at our population, report shows that we have about 60% of our population persons who are lower than 25 years old, 25 years and below. And of course, we know that technology is synonymous with younger people, so they are very energetic. They want to experiment, they want to try it out. And that's where the government can tap in. What can we do with over about 120 million young people? Some of them, a good number who are out of school, who are willing, who are eager to learn. And I think collaboration is very important. Now, collaboration in the way that is measurable. For example, 32,000 were trained a couple of months ago. What was the measure? What's the result? Are they engaged in some resourceful activity and they employ, there are several opportunities if these guys knows what they are doing. And that's what the government can really do. And I also suggest that as opposed to doing some sort of mass training, they can be doing scholarships, support groups that are already doing this, that specialize in this training. All right, and then these groups will be able to know the persons, they'll be able to properly qualify people who can learn this sort of technology, as opposed to picking some random person in the street who probably don't know how to do copy and paste on the computer and now enrolling them on blockchain. So those are some of the ways that government, and I recommend being very strategic, being very intentional as well. And let's see through the entire value chain. Somebody is trained, what happens after the training? Is he engaged? What have we done right? What have we not done right? And then we go back and we play all of that. That would help to promote the technology. And of course, it's going to be for Nigeria. I think we're not trying to play catch up with this particular technology as compared to the advent of the internet and the .com era, where people do not even believe the technology. But now we see that there are great potentials. So I believe that what NITA is doing is very commendable, but I think a more practical approach would be better.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned something you said about the value chain, and that brings to my mind how that we need to begin to demystify some of the misconceptions out there and also make the general populace to see where the value chain is generated from. Now, we are here today discussing blockchain technology, but we all know that blockchain technology today is not, didn't just start today. Blockchain technology idea has been around since the 1980s. But the first implementation of blockchain technology was cryptocurrency, which was Bitcoin. Right? Now, you cannot overrule that fact. And that the growth of the ecosystem started from that area also. And this is what has attracted people to blockchain technology. But then, when we attract people to blockchain technology through this value-generating ecosystem, we fail to also give them what the intrinsic value is, and how we can harness this and use it to spur further economic growth, like something that can ignite a whole economy and nation, So we must begin to also address that in terms of educating the people, right, very correctly about it and how we are solving financial inclusion through that. So it is good that we put those conversations out there about the value that we are generating through all of these things, right? So thank you very much. My next question is going to come back to Mr. Jega, because you are the one who tried to split it, that a crypto trader is not a blockchain practitioner. But of course, we must also, not overrule the fact that crypto trading generated a lot of builders. I can point quite a number of people here who, through crypto trading, they became solution providers and innovators and are building businesses that are employing Nigerians now. And that is why we are seeking that platform and framework to be able to work with the government, especially the CBN, because we don't know the impediments placed on the industry. It's not just affecting cryptocurrency only, it's also affecting blockchain innovation. Because the truth is, you cannot separate cryptocurrency from blockchain, you can't separate blockchain from cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency was the first implementation of blockchain technology. Without Bitcoin, we wouldn't be talking about blockchain. So that is a fact that nobody can deny. All right? But yes, we know that blockchain is the main value, right, that we need to build. So we need to begin to see how these things are affecting us. Even you that is building a real estate solution, tokenizations, at this point, it has to become tokens, it has to become securities, right? It has to become digital assets. And when those things come, they become transactional tools. And people can accept it as a means of payment and value, and that has made it a currency, So, yeah, Mr. Jega, I want to throw this question at you that says, how can the government incentivize indigenous startups and businesses to adopt blockchain solutions, thereby creating a better ground for domestic talents to apply their skills and gain experience and income? I believe that this is an area which you have very good expertise with what you are doing at Dominion Blockchain. So just give us an insight of how that can happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, very importantly, let's look at how government, the PPP model, very critical, public-private partnership. That's one critical area. In as much as we understand government is government, right? We need to, sometimes, whatever you're doing, you need to showcase it to them, to engage them, and let them understand what you're offering and how your solution can help optimize their processes, how your solution can help increase efficiency, how your solution can bring transparency, how your solution can bring more revenue to them. You need to justify that to them, right? So engage them into PPP model. For example, my own company, our business model is B2G and B2B. We don't deal with individuals on the streets. We deal with only government and businesses. So we always go to educate government about blockchain, because most importantly, when governments hear blockchain, they think about crypto. They don't want to talk about it because we have experience. We've been to 11 countries in Africa, and the story and the narrative is the same. The template is the same. So you need to educate them first. You need to engage them, first. You need to educate them. Then also come closer to them to look at how do you leverage on each other's strengths, from the angle of value proposition. So most importantly is the PPP model, which is very important, right? And also coming up with several incentives to support innovation, such as what House of Africa is doing, right? What House of Africa is doing is helping a very major challenge in a certain industry, that has cost lives, that has caused people to lose properties, that has caused a lot of, it's a decay. And the problem is a global phenomenon what you're trying to solve. It's not a Nigerian problem. Because in as much as we know, for Nigeria, land is with the government. If you go to Ghana, land is with the kings. If you go to Gambia, land is with the council and the government. So there are different areas on that, on how to engage that. Also, we need to also look at how areas that we can come up with grants, funding mechanism to help innovation, build innovation around certain problems. For example, there's a lot of things happening in Nigeria around disbursing funds for individuals, disbursing funds for people in the IDPs, right? We can come up, identify a certain ecosystem company which has strengths in that solution, support it in building that solution to help government process. So grants and funding, it's very, very critical in helping some of those businesses be able to achieve the success story, because it's more important for us to look at how best we can do that. Then research and development, because we need to do a lot of things around R&D, right? Identifying some of the critical states, solutions that need attention. For example, we understand the problem Nigerians are facing, or not Nigerians, Africans are facing in terms of certificates. When they travel abroad, the school abroad reach out to the home school in Africa for their certificates, some don't respond. Some have lost employment, some have lost admission because of that. How do we use blockchain to solve certain problems? So I'm just trying to measure some use cases that we can utilize in terms of funding those mechanisms. So it's important for us to leverage on those gaps and see how best we can help develop a viable ecosystem. But lastly, is for industry stakeholders.
Yes, sir.
The industry stakeholders such as CBAN needs to work together in collaboration. You can never win alone. You need to collaborate. You need to bring everybody the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's no man that wins alone. We are stronger together. So now that we've started collaborating, you can see the success story. You can see what's going on. So when you go with one voice, you go with one direction, you go with one vision, and you go with one agenda. So it's very important for us to leverage on this.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's important. It's
Yes,
important.
sir. Yes, sir.
Because the segregation is not really helping. There's division. When you're divided, you're divided. When you have two vision, you are divided. When you have three vision, you have confusion. The government will not know who to talk to. This one will come and say A, another one will come and say B, the other one will say C. So who will they listen to? So let's have one vision to help in building our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is young, and we have a lot to achieve because of our economy and because of our population. We have what it takes to lead Africa. Africa is watching us. Whatever we do, they come to copy the template. Countries like Ghana, Gambia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, they don't disturb themselves to development framework. They come to Nigeria and copy and paste. So let's give them something unique. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You know, even before you mentioned this, a thought was flashing through my mind, and it was as though you were connected to my thoughts, because I was looking at this room, and in my mind I was like, this is a room full of builders and innovators, a room full of stakeholders and contributors. Like this is not a room for come and sign up on my platform. Every single person here is looking for who will come and sign up on their platform. So there is nobody here you are calling to come and sign up on your own platform. That means it's a room full of builders. And this is the first time that such a thing is happening. And we are very, very happy to see that, right? And this is just the beginning of such engagements and programs and projects like you are seeing. And I know that this is a panel session, but I must also say thank you to the blockchain community for coming out en masse from different sectors to support what we are doing. Thank you so much. Yeah, so quickly, Mr. Rize, in 1 minute, please, I would want you to just give us your own opinion on how Nigeria education system can be reformed to better nurture and develop domestic talent in blockchain technology, bridge the skill gaps, and enhance the employability of domestic talents. In 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Like I earlier said before, our education system is nearly obsolete, so it needs a total revamping, right? I don't know how a lecturer who is still using the lecture note of 1982 want to teach someone a linear in the this 21st century about a technology of fourth industrial revolution. Basically, he doesn't have the knowledge about it, right? So it is high time the NUC begin to rise up to the occasion, to also join hands to drive the adoption of blockchain, so that the curriculum in schools has to be revamped, right? So that research and development should also be given a top priority in terms of technology, not just researching about economics and how to. So if that is being done, then you know that you can be able to catch our youth young from school. And when you catch them young, as the person is coming out of school, you know that he has already developed a career path for himself and become useful to the industry and also to the economy. And also, lastly, I think that government will also look in the area of developing a policy that will mandate, especially multinationals in the country, to rise up to the occasion in terms of corporate social responsibilities, building research and development, and sponsoring also researchers, so that, because there must be a reward system that will motivate people to be able to go into research.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree very strongly with you. Please give him a round of applause. That last point, I agree very strongly with it, and I am a strong advocate of giving back, right? Because as a as an entity, Nigeria is a domain. And one of the things that our government should do for us is to protect our local businesses to build, to rise, and protect us from the competition of foreigners, right? Because you see a foreigner coming into Nigeria with $50 million for marketing, and the Nigerian is still trying to raise $50,000. How can they compete? You know, and so when the governments are not protecting us, you are killing us, right? And of course, as these people, as they make money from the ecosystem, from our economy, they should also give back, you know. So we should be focused on not just the financial transaction, but value transaction, how we exchange value for value, all right? So I will be rounding up this session. So just in 30 seconds, can you give us your final word, Mr. Rinze? In 30 seconds, please.
Okay, I believe that blockchain has come to stay, and like one of our leader, the former CBAN president, Mr. Paul Ezafo, would normally say that the blockchain is for Africa, right? And we are the one that can tell our story better. So if you don't tell your story, another person, another man out there will tell the story in the way that might not be favorable or palatable for you. So it is a clarion call for all of us to rise up, irrespective of our background and domain, to join hands and work with the government and move blockchain forward.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Jega, please, in 30 seconds, give us your final word.
I just want to add to what he said.
Yes.
My one word is just one word. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. If you want to build, if you want us to build a viable ecosystem of our dreams, let's collaborate. Let's not sit on the other side and be accusing government, talking about government. We need to engage them like this, constructively, bring them closer, and let them understand us, we understand them, and then move forward. But I have a final word to say. I just want to use this opportunity to invite each one of you. The government hosts a national event, which is called, international event, which is called Digital Nigeria International Conference. Last year, they gave us a day, which we hosted the blockchain. We requested for a day. And I think they are all here. Siban was there. I can see. So this year, it's actually building more momentum. We had 12 international speakers last year, and some 4 Nigerians in diaspora who are doing amazing things in blockchain, all flew down to come and share their experiences. This year, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be the first event that the city president is going to attend. It's the only tech event that is held by the government and the industry. So I don't want you to stay away from it and go online and be ranting. Say, oh, they didn't invite us. Remember that the guy invited you. I'm going to keep this evidence. Yeah, video me. I will use this evidence and tell the incoming minister, tell the president and the vice president that I invited them, but they refused to come. So please try and make it. And let's have some resourceful minds that are going to engage, because there's a day for blockchain, which is the opening day the president's attending. Blockchain Web3 and IoT, day 1. It's going to be very intense. And let's have some interesting solutions to exhibit as well. Let's have some interesting solutions to pitch at the startup day, which is day 3. Day 1 is blockchain day, day 2 is VR and XR, VR, XR, and AI day. Day 3 is startup and investor day and fintech day. So please, let's try and work together with Stephen. Oh, you're part of it actually. We're working together with him, and let's see how we can do that. And lastly, for the guidance of the blockchain training, 30,000, I've spoken to Stephen, former president, for us to see how we can engage blockchain companies to take some of them for internship. And I think we had 7 companies that have taken a lot. I think over 5,000 have been absorbed now. So please, I want you to do more. I'm happy to discuss with you how do you want to take. You want to take the whole 30,000? We're happy to give you that, because they are very interested. Some have started building some interesting projects. It's very important, because these are our brothers and sisters. We need to engage them and see how we can help them. Give them that hand-holding. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Differently, please, in 30 seconds. I'm going to be counting my stopwatch.
So I'll go for the founder. So we want to always play in the back of our mind that the biggest economies in the world is powered by technology. Blockchain is one of them that we've identified. We're talking about in this particular event. So keep building, keep doing what you are doing, keep innovating. And I'm sure the government are watching and they are going to bring out policies that are favorable. And of course, I think they are listening. They are going to give us policies that are favorable as we progress.
Sure. Thank you very much. So I will round up this session by saying thank you to everyone that has listened and attended. Of course, you know that blockchain technology is what is happening now, and there's so much for you in blockchain. This month we are having this stakeholders policy dialogue. Next month is the SEBAN conference, Digital Asset Summit in the city of Abuja, and you should be there. The following month is Digital Nigeria, so there is a whole lot packed for you for blockchain technology, and you have enough information in the folders that you have. Thank you so much. Thank you all for participating.
Welcome, everyone. Please give a round of applause to the DG. Please keep clapping.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, while we are about rounding up this session, the Director General and the CEO of NIDA walked in. That is the person who has made everything that is happening here today possible for us. So please, with a standing ovation, let us welcome the DG of NIDA, Mr. Kashifu Inua Ibrahim. Thank you so much, sir. We would like you to do us the honor of addressing the blockchain industry and the stakeholders from the National Implementation and Steering Committee. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Please let's let the DG. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Honestly, initially I decided to stay away because I don't want my presence to influence anything. This is a policy dialogue. We want the ecosystem to own it and drive it. But because of my passion and love about the blockchain, that's why I decided to come and just share some few words with you. I will never forget, my journey started around 2014, 2012, 2013. My journey into blockchain industry, Bitcoin started around that time. And in CBN, I think Fadela is here also from CBN. I was the first person to make a presentation about blockchain in the bank. And the bank set up a committee to look into it, how to implement blockchain. But along the way, there were some turbulences. I think that what led to the bank even banning the blockchain in the country. But after that incident, we said, okay, let us take a break and look at what went wrong and what do we need to put in place to get Nigerians to benefit from this promising technology. I benefited a lot from blockchain or Bitcoin. My first house in Abuja, I bought it from Bitcoin money. My first brand new car, which I still drive it, I bought it in 2014 from Bitcoin money. So looking at this, I see it as a responsibility on me to make sure everybody benefits from it. In 2013, we built a platform for cross-border payment using Bitcoin. We tested it successfully. Within a month, we remitted about 100 and something million from the UK to Nigeria. But we failed because of regulation. We didn't have the money to get the license, and we don't want a situation whereby we'll be harassed. Even though that time I was a central banker. Well, I'm still a central banker. Let not matter go out to throw my ID card. So because of that, I had to lead that project, and today I found myself in a situation whereby I can influence things. That's why we started in, I think, 2018 or 19, we started with the blockchain adoption strategy. How can we adopt blockchain? Because at that time, we didn't have the buy-in of the larger stakeholders within the government to have a policy. That's why we started with the adoption strategy. So we worked with the ecosystem to craft the strategy, and we tested it. It was working well. And last year, we started part of the implementation of the strategy was awareness and training. We started in collaboration with Dominion. We trained 32,000 Nigerians on blockchain technology. And I learned some of them have started their businesses from what they have learned, because I challenged them to come up with the data. It's not about just training people. After training once, then what? We want people to get the knowledge and start their business. So I believe they are working on that, and we have an MOU with Enchain to train 500,000 Nigerians on blockchain. So we got the policy approved by the Federal Executive Council, and the steering committee was inaugurated, and the present administration has a strong interest on blockchain, because during the campaign, in the inaugural speech, and at many fora, they mentioned blockchain and also how to create jobs using digital economy. And I believe blockchain, with the possibility of adding $1.7 trillion to the global GDP, will be a good technology for Nigeria to leverage. And if we position ourselves well, based on the PwC report, Nigeria can add about $40 billion to its GDP by 2030. And I believe we can do it. With the people I see in this room, the strong interest in the ecosystem and the energy, I believe we can do it. We can use it to solve so many problems with it. We are starting this year a POC with certificate. How can we use blockchain to authenticate certificate? NYSC is ready to provide a platform for us. We all know that NYSC certificate is one area we are having a lot of forgery in Nigeria. So the DG came to our office. He sought for our help, and we have agreed to help them develop that blockchain certificate authentication, so that all NYSC certificate will be on blockchain. You can check and verify it. After that also, we've been doing a lot of training at NIDA. Even the blockchain training we're doing for 500,000 Nigerians. Why can't we be issuing a blockchain-based certificate to them? That what will drive adoption in other sectors and industry. Then from there we can look at other areas. And the bank also, the Central Bank of Nigeria now, is also ready to work with the ecosystem. I believe after our meeting, we're supposed to have some follow-up meeting, I think. So maybe after this dialogue, we should agree on what to do next. And I know there are so many startups here in this room with promising use cases that we can help and promote. So thank you very much. I believe this dialogue will provide a platform for us to set agenda for the country in blockchain adoption. Thank you. So please, I need to take my leave. I have a 3 p.m. flight to catch.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, before you leave, I would like you to take a group picture with some of the stakeholders in the industry. So, guys, come, let's take a picture with you. Yes, let's use the outside, please. Some people stand on the podium, please. Please, some people should stand on it. Please, if you are joining this photograph, hurry up because we need to leave now.
Sorry.
Please, can you take it? All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, in the fair case.
We're going to the next panel discussion. And this topic is improving the blockchain regulatory landscape for an effective financial inclusion. Interesting. So to moderate this discussion, we have Dr. Ayodele Bakare. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up stage. Please put your hands together for him. And then next we have the CBN rep. How many of us want to see who the CBN rep is? The hands are raised, I'm not the only one. So the CBN rep, Sir Adeolu Fadele. Please put your hands together for him. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, and next we have Adedeji Owunibi. That's from Convex City. Please put your hands together for him. And finally, we have Sir Suleiman Garba from Yaki Bank. Please put your hands together for him. Please put your hands together for them. So they come up stage.
Does that call my name now? Yes.
There's one more person.
Yes, by the grace of God, I'm the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to everyone. And before we start, I want you guys to give yourself a round of applause. And I'm sure you're wondering why. It is not because of the contribution so far, but for the fact that we came back after the tea break. It is not easy to come back after the tea break. I hope you know, because I've had experiences where after the tea break, the next thing is the closing ceremony. So for you guys to come back even after the tea break, I think you've done wonderfully well. It shows that you have passion for the blockchain technology and to see how the blockchain can help ensure prosperity for all Nigerians. So that said, I am Ayodele, Dr. Ayodele Bakare, and I'm from the Digital Economy Development Department at the National Information Technology Development Agency, and I will be moderating this session. And with me here, are three fine gentlemen that will help us distill as a topic for this panel session, titled improving the regulatory landscape for effective financial inclusion, or as in can I say, improving the blockchain regulatory landscape for effective financial inclusion. Financial inclusion, the access and use of affordable financial services by all Nigerians is a crucial component of economic growth and also poverty reduction. According to the immediate past governor of the CBN, about 36% of Nigerians are unbanked, meaning that this category of people do not have access to useful financial services that can help them improve their livelihood. However, the blockchain technology provides an opportunity, to extend this financial services, to this category of people. But it is also important to know that this may not be achievable without an effective and an adaptive and inclusive blockchain regulatory landscape. So that said, I think it's important for all hands to be on deck, to ensure that we implement a blockchain regulatory landscape that will ensure efficient access, to financial inclusion. And by extension, just like I mentioned earlier, it will help, with the improvement of our social economy. So having set the stage for this panel session, I would like our fine gentlemen, to quickly introduce themselves, so that we can start this discussion as quickly as possible. So I will start from my very far left. Kindly introduce yourself. 15 seconds, please. Who has the mic, please? No, but there should be a second mic. Let's have a second mic. The anchor, we are going to find you for this. Where's the second microphone? My problem is that I don't want us to waste precious time, by sharing one microphone.
And to make it brief, my name is Suleiman Garba. I'm part of the advisory team of Monument Application Limited, a tech company that operates and comes with a proof of concept within the payment landscape. So we use our solutions to come with use cases to drive financial inclusion, especially on the cross-border payment side. That's the key. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adedeji Owonibi, simply known in the space as Deji. I wear two caps. One is the crypto asset regulatory side. So I run a company called A&D Forensics, where we do cryptocurrency forensics, cryptocurrency investigations. We work with regulators, we work with law enforcement to crack down crypto thefts, crypto hacks, and also support regulation and coming out with proper regulation. The second one also, I'm credited with establishing the first Nigerian blockchain hub called Convertity in Abuja. And what we do is to incubate solutions around blockchain and Web3, and we also look into local problems using the Convertity lab to build out solutions that relates to that. And I will speak to that in the course of our engagement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Fadele Adeodu, and I represent the Central Bank of Nigeria. I'm the right person to speak to if you are interested in the underlying technology of INERA. So, forgive me, I have been trying to stay awake for this session because because of the previous session that has taken so long. So I'm very happy to engage. Just before you also think about to question me, let me tell you the other cap that I wear. I happen to be a pioneer in the crypto and blockchain community in Nigeria. I'm actually the founder of Cryptographic Development Initiative in Nigeria, CDIN, the community called Crypto Nigeria. If you know it, it's the first registered in Nigeria. So I have been in this journey longer than most people. So if you are thinking about this overlapping road that I'm playing between INERA and the crypto space, I think I'm very happy to engage, but I assure you it has never been this good.
Thank you very much.
We have never seen it this good.
And we're on your side. Thank you.
Are we ready to continue with this panel session? Are we ready? Please, let's calm down. Thank you for your compliance. So now that we have the introductions out of the way, let me now start with a question that will spark the conversation as far as this panel session is concerned. It is a known fact that for a solution to be perfect, or for a solution to be actionable and effective, it's very important to have an in-depth understanding of the problem itself. Because without the understanding of the problem itself, it's going to be very hard to prefer an actionable and also an effective solution. So that said, I want to ask Mr. Deji, as far as you are concerned, what do you think are the challenges and obstacles within the blockchain regulatory landscape that is affecting an effective adoption of finances within the country? Now that is number one. Then also we know that the prominent regulatory instrument as far as blockchain is concerned is a national blockchain policy. So I also want to know, do you think it suffices the requirements of this industry? Or do you think it's also very important, very imperative to ensure that we have other regulatory instruments at the national level, at the sectorial level, and also at the industry? So your question is actually two questions in one. Over to you, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I think the problem with blockchain and regulation is known to every one of us. We've seen, I think some, Yele was mentioning earlier, when he said, if they see you with a laptop, they will arrest you, right? That's a problem on its own, because again, there's no definite way to actually distinguish who is doing what and all that. And I like giving my analogy practically. So again, because I'm engaged with regulators, I do training especially to central bank. And last week, I had a full 1 week with them from 9 a.m. in the morning, and we close every day 5 p.m. So that's to tell you the central bank is waking up, like everyone is in tune. And the practical example I gave, which has to do with regulation, and I want to bend the story that way. I showed them when we came to central banking and commercial banks and custodianship. And I pictured all the custodial services, and actually brought one, who's our partner, Firefox. And we showed all the custody companies, and I said, what are you guys able to see here on the screen? I painted all the companies, and they're saying this is 50 billion asset under valuation, 9 billion valuation so far. Few companies, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I said, did you see any Nigerian there? And no one. Did you see any company from Africa? I said, no one. And so then somebody asked, because again, it's a beautiful session. Because we have every department of the central bank, from financial policy to monetary policy to financial services to risk management, all of them were there. And I love it that it's a conglomerate of different departments. And one asked, he said, why don't we have any Nigerian? I said, you guys are the reason. It's just simple. When this technology came up over 13, 14, 15 years now, what you have done, because I was talking to all of them, what you guys have done is simply to tie our hands and tie our legs. And while other people across the world are moving, you refuse to allow us to move. And then you wake up maybe after 20, 25 years, you say, oh, this is a blossoming economy, you guys can join. Can we compete? Yes, I know. The journey would have gone far, and that's why you're not seeing 50 billion asset and valuation, $9 billion company, because you have not just simply regulated. And so you cannot stay away. That's a big problem. You cannot stay away without regulating. And for a regulator to be able to regulate, they have to be educated and to understand what is happening. So another case in point, we felt, because we think regulation is very critical, we decided pro bono that we're going to be training the EFCC official. Remember I talked about crypto forensics, that we have a firm that trains regulator and law enforcement. And because simply the police officer does not understand crypto, you arrest a young man. In fact, every day, just last week, 2 of my developers were arrested in Port Harcourt. Why? There's a laptop, and these are celebrated developers that I have. And so it's still a problem. If you're talking about a problem, we can go on and on. And the EFCC, for example, to mitigate that, and I think we reduce that from EFCC, we'll be seeing that you don't know how that happened. We did it. I went to all the EFCC offices in Nigeria, from Lagos here in Okoyi, to Enugu in to Enugu, to Port Harcourt Zonal Office, to Warri, and we concluded it in their headquarters in Abuja. And simply what we're telling them is how this is not rocket science. There's an article I released in 2018, and I say cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, the law enforcement best friend, is the most easiest to investigate. And so you should not be jittery. It's just that understanding. They don't know how the whole thing goes. And we went to train them. Now, they can separate the Yahoo boys from the normal guys because they could investigate, they could ask questions. Now they're confiscating assets. And this is where the second layer of regulation moves to. Now they have a lot of assets under confiscation, right? How do they manage it? We need a custodial service. And when I spoke with some few custodians, and I said, okay, can you custody for these people because we're trying to do a proposal where they can manage this asset and actually have beautiful return at the end of the year. And with what, at one location, I was telling them, with the asset you have seized, you can make a return of over $1 million US at the end of the year. But no custodianship in country. And the one we spoke to said, okay, there's a challenge because we're UK based. And if government shut down that custodial, meaning Nigerian money is stuck there, what do you think is the cause for that problem? Regulation. We don't have any. You know, that spiral businesses like this. And so I can go on and on. The problem is.
Don't go on and on. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Please, a round of applause. Otherwise, we will not continue. Thank you very much for that. Very insightful as a response to that question. And like we now say, behind every successful man is a laptop. So you need to educate, the police on that. So don't keep arresting anybody with as a laptop. So like I said, what you provided is really very insightful. And as far as I'm concerned, I can sum up what you're trying to say. To the fact that our current regulation is stifling. Okay. And let me assure you that neither we have developed a culture of not, making our regulations, as stifling. Rather, our regulations are built to be developmental, to be sustainable, and also to be adaptive. Because yes, government will always continue to play catch up, but I think we're trying to, as much as possible, mitigate that. We can never be too proactive, when it comes to the regulation of technologies. But we're trying. In fact, that is one of our principles. Before we release any regulation or any regulatory instrument, we must ensure that it meets those 3 criteria. It must be developmental, it must be inclusive, and most important, it must be adaptive. Thank you very much for that. So I will go to you, Mr. Suleiman. On the second question, it is a known fact that for any technology to be successful in terms of its implementation, especially at the societal level, it's very important that there is strong collaboration and also synergy, between all the players involved. Having said this, how do you think, or what is the strategy? What strategy will you propose for regulators, financial institutions, and experts in the blockchain industry, to come together and ensure that, we have a blockchain ecosystem that will not only work for the direct stakeholders, but also for Nigerians. Because one of our participants here mentioned something that really touched me. Okay, the average man out there does not care about the blockchain. He does not care about the immutability of blockchain. It doesn't care if the blockchain technology supports traceability, security, and all that. All what we care about is how does this benefit me? How does this put table? How does this put food rather on my table? How does this ensure that I'm gainfully employed? So that said, Mr. Suleiman, can you propose strategies to ensure effective collaboration between these three entities that I mentioned? The regulators, or should I say we regulators, then the financial institutions, and also the blockchain experts.
Thank you very much. Going by the question and the theme of today's session, which is engagement of the stakeholders, we are looking at adoption of the blockchain technology. And precisely to adopt that technology, it is going to lead into financial inclusion, and at the same time, it will lead into economic growth and development. But it appears that there is a little digital divide between financial institutions, regulators, and industry or innovators. So in the previous sessions, and from the questions, I was meant to understand that cryptocurrency is not blockchain, blockchain is not cryptocurrency. On the other part, when you look from the regulatory perspective, you'll be looking at issues around distributed ledger technologies being mentioned, and the issue of blockchain is silent on the other part. So these are some of the misconceptions and digital divides that is stifling the adoption of blockchain technology, which requires strategy to see how this can be resolved. Let me say, okay, blockchain is a technology, is an enabler. And as an enabler, it enables financial services. And financial services is a regulated activity, and there's a framework into which you have to fit in that innovation for it to work. So what blockchain did in finance precisely, since we are here with the industry and the regulator, is that it solved a fundamental problem in finance. And that fundamental problem is called double spending. So in finance, you can't send money and retain it. So when you send money to somebody, he has to receive it, and your own account or your wallet, that money has to be done. So because of that, a use case came up within the industry to come up with a currency called cryptocurrency. And in the sayings of the chair of the Digital Monetary Institute, Official Monetary and Financial Institution Forum, it's a think tank forum for central bankers and policy makers around the world. What she said is that cryptocurrency has side elbow central bankers. So what she means here is that an application of the technology blockchain is used to come up with a currency, and that currency is used as a means of payment. So, and the regulatory environment are not comfortable, because if we look at in decades, it is the central bankers that come with issue currency. So currency issuance is a public domain and regulated. Now you have private entities are coming up with currencies. So we have a currency and we can transact with it. So you see, that is what is creating partly the digital divide, and the regulators, my understanding, they are not open to allow the kind of coexistence at that level, and that's what is stifling innovation on one part. That is why the industry is saying, look, why are you regulating us? Because we are creating a solution. So this is a whole misconception that has been going on. So partly engagement with the regulators, to try to show them this is what the technology does, is key as a strategy. Globally, what is expected from the regulatory public is that regulators are expected to be technology neutral. Technology neutral in the sense that they are not keen about the technology. They are looking at what the technology does, which is the financial services. And a lot of discussion, a lot of POC has been going on the currency side, using the central currency. And there are a lot of initiatives within the industry. Global Blockchain Business Forum, for instance, is coming up with a lot of initiatives, a global standing mapping initiative to show the industry like this is the direction, this is the guidance you need to see, this is the kind of leadership, and you need to understand that financial services to drive financial inclusion is a regulated activity and should be done within the kind of framework since the two are coming together. So briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. For that, the anchor has whispered in my ear that we just have about 15 minutes more, so I think we may need to increase the tempo for this discussion. And to react, to your feedback or to your answer, to the question, I can say that we have exemplified collaboration and synergy by this gathering alone. And I think we need to, again, give ourselves, a round of applause. Because if you look at, the people that are here now, I'm sure you have regulators there, you have people in the financial sphere, and we also have blockchain experts. So we've started, and this is a very good way to start. And we'll ensure that more strategies are put in to ensure sustainability of this collaboration and to ensure that synergy is also sustained. So my next question is the big elephant that we started in the very first fire chat, because there is just no way that we can run away from this. And that is a big elephant called e-Naira. As far as I'm concerned, and you can quote me anywhere, the CBN has done a very, very good job with the introduction of the e-Naira. However, I know you don't like that word, however, in the public domain, there are information that about 98% of the wallets, that are out there. This is not IO this time around, so please don't quote me on this. Well, you can 8% of the wallet not in use at all. And I'm sure that the blockchain community, perceive this as, I won't say problem, but as a point of concern. So that said, what strategies do you think can be implemented by CBN, to ensure improved adoption of the e-Naira? And there's a second part to this question, but I will allow Mr. Suleiman, to answer that as a later. So please go ahead. What do you think, should be the next step, for CBN in terms of ensuring improved adoption, of the e-Nigeria? Sorry, the e-Naira. Sorry.
Thank you very much for that question, and also thank you for the opportunity to carry the CBN along in this dialogue. The question that you have asked, I would like to reframe it that maybe it should rather be, what can we do all together as Nigeria to promote the adoption and the utilization of the Nigeria Central Bank digital currency. That is a sovereign digital version of our currency, rather than seeing it like a CBN thing. And in terms of the strategy, collaboration cannot just be, it cannot be overemphasized. There is a global perspective to CBDC, and I like to say that CBDC is first global before each country starts to domesticate it. And if you look at the Nigeria CBDC project today, it's still far ahead of several other countries. In fact, some countries are still wondering if it is a viable thing to do, and they are still yet to understand it. So collaboration is more intensive collaboration. Stakeholder collaboration is the first thing I would say. Then I would also like to say that the implementation of use cases, the central bank digital currency should be understood as a lubricant for economic activities. Money in itself cannot have utility in isolation, if you understand what I'm talking about, unless you are trading it. So a lot of people are looking at INERA, somebody mentioned airdrop, so like the cryptocurrency and just something like that. But that is not the purpose of the CBDC, of the INERA. INERA is actually created to power the digital economy. If you want to build a digital economy, you need a digital currency. You also need digital identity. So I want to say that we are already taking the right step. I mean, by coming together to understand how we can collaborate. But I think the INERA adoption should be driven by all Nigerians rather than seeing it as a CBN thing. And we must also understand that what the CBN has done in the last 2 years is actually to take that courage to be innovative. Honestly speaking, what we are here talking about the lack of traction when it comes to adoption of blockchain. And here is the CBN who has taken the courage, despite all the challenges that the blockchain even technologies still have, and they are taking the courage to even implement and learn and approach that project as a kind of a continual learning approach, so that all stakeholders can understand, because these are novel and evolving concepts. The CBDC itself is changing every day. And I want to mention this. Please, if you say you are a blockchain enthusiast or a promoter, or I want you to also understand that the CBN is open to enabling the private sector innovation to be built on the digital, the central bank digital currency. So we should please leave an open mind, and I look forward to provide more insight as we go on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fadele. I'm particularly very happy, that you emphasize. Please, can we have that one, please? I'm very happy that you've emphasized, the need for continuous, collaboration. And I'm also happy that you are inviting the community, the blockchain community, to provide ideas and strategies, to include the adoption of e-Naira. I'm really very happy to hear that. Thank you very much. So like I mentioned, I saw you wanted to clap for him. Please, can we clap for him? Okay, for me. No, please, the clap is not for me. I'm just a moderator. The clap is for our special guest here, our fine gentleman, just like I introduced them earlier. So like I mentioned, there are two parts to the question. And the second part, I want Mr. Sulina, to respond to that. And that is talking about, possible use cases, to improve the adoptability or the adoption of the e-Naira. And I'm looking at a use case, where we can elevate, the e-Naira to the status of a stable coin. Okay, just like we have the USDT, and we also have the BUSD, so that they can also serve as a store of value. Okay, and also if it serves as a store of value, and if it's been adopted by other players outside the country. Okay. So like I was saying, if it can act as a store of value, and if it can also be adopted, by other, foreigners, then it may encourage adoption, by Nigerians. So what do you think in terms of that, please?
Coming up with a use case that drives the e-Naira adoption can come like a bridge currency. The e-Naira is a retail CBDC and it's a form of digital money launched in Nigeria. So definitely it's going to work within the digital ecospace in Nigeria. So if you come up with a use case along cross-border payments, for example, it is going to be fantastic, and the industry of the blockchain can develop a lot of use cases to that. For example, like the stablecoin you mentioned, and the stablecoin is village currency when it comes to cross-border payments. Currently, one can say, why is it that the e-Naira is not performing cross-border payments? We had it in the roadmap when it was launched in October 2021. It's part of it should be used for a cross-border. But within the cross-border use cases, we are seeing under the Bank of International Settlements, we have close to 10 or more projects. There is only one use case for retail payment, which is Project Icebreaker recently. All the other use cases for CBDC, for example, are done as a wholesale. So you need to have a stable coin that will stand in between to drive the e-Naira, and it will be used for cross-border payment. It can be used in the decentralized finance, for example. And this is in line with the Financial Stability Board principle for the financial market infrastructure. They recognize that stable coin has a potential use case. It can be used for cross-border payments. And it is also in line with the G20 roadmap to enhance cross-border payment, the principle of payment interoperability. So now how can you create a use case using a stable coin, for example, to link it into the CBDC network? These are some of the possible use cases that we can use. Last year, I believe PwC ranked the e-Naira on their maturity index first in the whole world. But surprisingly, we saw report from all banks in the resource. Because in the digital economy, the use cases are global, are not domestic. So you have to open a lot of use cases. For example, now we are talking about settlement system. In settlement can happen within the African country. So it is going to be a new use case as a stable coin. Because if you have currency reference, maybe to use that currency in international trade, you also need a settlement currency within those countries. And the stable coin can serve as a bridge to that as well. So likewise also, I saw another project recently, Project Dynamo under the Bank of International Settlements, and also they are looking at coming up with a prototype, doing a prototype for SME finance through automating the e-lending. And once they automate the e-lending, you value can move as a token, and it can trigger a payment using whatever currency, possibly stable coin, possibly CBDC. So generally, there is a commonality between central bank digital currency like the e-Naira, the stable coin, and the tokenized asset within the digital economy. So we need to see a lot of use cases, proof of concept within that framework. And it is in line with the framework adopted or recommended by the Financial Stability Board under the principle of financial market infrastructure. And at the same time, the Bank of International Settlement Committee on Payment and Market Infrastructure, in conjunction with IOSCO, also came up with their own recommendation towards our stable coin or global stable coin.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. So at this juncture, I think it will be fair, to throw this discussion open, to our great participants that are here. So please, this is the time for you to, push your questions and your comments, as far as this panel session is concerned. Uncle, how many minutes do we have left?
So we have like 7 minutes.
Because I thought you told me 5 minutes, about 20 minutes ago.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sheyi. I'm not paying. My question is to Central Bank. Why is the e-Naira implemented as a retail payment system? Why isn't it implemented as a wholesale payment system for the banks? So, for instance, we have a lot of people in the diaspora. Now, why is our Naira losing so much value every day? Why is it behaving like a coin? Now, because The problem is there is a lot of demand for the dollar. Why is there a lot of demand for the dollar? Because dollar is the only currency in the world that has cross-border velocity. So that means I can be in Nigeria and hold the dollar. Now, since we have that population, we have that teeming population, and we have a lot of Nigerians that travel there, why don't you do it in such a way that you have the e-naira that is like a wholesale currency for the bank? So let's say I have a bank account with First Bank. First Bank will convert all my account balance to say something like a First Bank Naira that is collateralized by the e-Naira that they hold with the central bank, such that if I want to do any transaction between me and maybe another person that has an account with Access Bank who has an Access Bank Naira, there is going to be like a maker-taker. So there's on the blockchain, there is a decentralized exchange where anybody, for instance, can actually have the two and merge. And then so if I send, it converts it automatically, and then the other person can. So that way, you have enabled competition. You're going to have adoption because the banks are not going to start looking for customers to start to use their own particular brand of e-Naira that is powered by their own brand. That their own Naira is also collateralized. So it means that somebody abroad doesn't even have to go and look for that dollar to send to Nigeria. Okay. All they need to do is buy e-Naira over there and then send the Naira directly to Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I hope you thank you very much for asking the question and at the same time providing the solution. Mr. Fadele, please note him, collect his details, and make him one of your consultants on the adoption of e-Naira.
Thank you, sir. I know Sheyi very well. And Sheyi has said many things, but some of those things, they are also a bit disconnected. The dollar thing, Forex, it's a different topic. The e-Naira use case, whether it is wholesale, retail, or cross-border, which are the three major spectrum of blockchain use cases, they are a different ballgame. But I will just say this, that actually what has been implemented, we started with retail, and that's as a result of initial assessment of our unique and domestic need. The wholesale CBDC use cases are majorly common among the advanced economy. You can go back and check. You will notice that most of the emerging economies are actually also focusing on the retail CBDC. That is because there are opportunity to leapfrog some infrastructural challenges. And you can look at that from the perspective of blockchain too. And CBDC can help us do that. So that's a pattern. There's a pattern with the emerging economy. But that does not even say anything about which use case you go first. Most countries are actually approaching this gradually. Some start with wholesale and they move to retail or cross-border, whichever way you are doing it. But I want to tell you today that most of the other projects you have made reference to, they are majorly pilots. It's hard for you to find live CBDC projects. There are only a handful, like 3 or 4 in the whole world, and Nigeria is actually leading that. But just the good news is that we are actually, the e-Naira is actually in the, is about to implement the wholesale and the cross-border. Actually, there's been a lot of pilots behind the scene that you may not see, but going live is a different thing. All these use cases are actually being experimented around, and I think what you have described is actually where we want to be. Where we are, it's actually why me and you are here, and we all agree that the technology is novel, is evolving. It requires a lot of deep understanding, and
and collaboration, which is what we are doing.
Okay, thank you very much, for that detailed and extensive response. So before the next person, takes the mic, please, if it's e-naira, let's not be too sentimental about it. Let's not be too subjective about it. Rather, let us be objective, in our contribution. Okay, I don't want us to do analysis paralysis as far as a problem is concerned. We are here for the solution because we have limited time. I know that it takes a lot of time, trying to analyze problems. Okay, but as we are now here with this limited time period, it's very important that we go straight to the solution, in an objective manner. Thank you as you comply.
Thank you. Please be conserve the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Conserve is not any minutes in time. Is it 1 or 2 minutes? I'm just kidding. Yes, please. I'm Timmy Olagunju, and I liked what you talked about in terms of the need for hubs to play a key role, and you're doing that by evidence. Evidence is the end of argument. Now, I want to say quickly that I think first thing in terms of policy, as someone who has worked in the tech policy space for the last 12 years, I would say that the first thing about policy is the fact that for the CBN, I think the first thing to start with is actually lifting that ban on banks to deal on crypto. Because of the fact that when it comes to investors' confidence, right, you would not want to see a more retrogressive policy approach towards bringing investors to do business. That's the first thing. Second point is the fact that when you do that, the banks have the infrastructure. I know we're going to be talking about the infrastructure thing. And because they have the infrastructure to drive private sector skill-based engagements to develop solutions, they will be very positioned to drive blockchain technology adoption going forward, particularly in line with the context of the conversation, which is basically improving blockchain for financial inclusion. Very key. Now, in terms of NIDA, SEC, and CBN, I see that SEC is trying to take a step towards somewhat of a regulatory sandbox for the financial sector. But I do not think they are well positioned for that. And this is my reason. When you look at countries like Singapore, Switzerland, or even Thailand, they've clearly, in terms of regulatory framework, they've clearly broken down tokens into 3 categories: asset token, utility token, and payment token. And then different regulatory frameworks are in charge of those various aspects. In Nigeria, we've not successfully done that. Now, NIDA, as you know, is a very key framework in terms of NIDA is more like the sounding board for tech ideas in terms of federal government tech solutions, right? So I think NIDA is well properly positioned to domicile a blockchain regulatory sandbox that caters to driving innovative solutions, whether in the private or public sector, for players in that space. I think that's something that NIDA needs to work on going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anchor, how many can we take? Because as it is now, you are the organ, the Anchor has more power than moderator. 2 more, okay, go ahead, please.
My name is Golomo Stanley. I'm representing Function Finance. I just have 2 questions to ask, especially with regards to the e-naira, because I see the e-naira as one of the center of discussion in this particular panel section. I want to ask, what's the plan of the CBN when it comes to implementation of this e-naira? Because so far, we know that the e-naira is already live, but maybe you are saying they are still working on it. And I'm aware that there are some other organizations that are also working with CBN to also help in improving e-naira. But do you guys have plans of making e-naira interoperable, especially since you are building on the blockchain? Because for this to be possible, the e-naira needs to interoperate. which of the blockchain are being done. Stakeholders should be carried. The government to try to implement this recommendation, because one thing is recommending, another thing is implementing. So what steps are the government, the CBN, the NITA, what steps are they taking to follow these processes? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before you go to the next person, let's allow Mr. Fadovi to quickly just respond.
Thank you very much. The INERA is utilizing Hyperledger blockchain, and that's. Thank you for asking that question. And that underscore how steep the learning curve. So you know, before you can start to relate with reality and practicality and build digital economy, you need to go beyond defining blockchain actually. And I can assure you, I started from the public blockchain, and the market for the private and enterprise blockchain is much newer, like not more than 5 or 4 years ago. But there's a lot of things that has happened in that space, and I tell you, there's a lot of things to learn, and the learning curve is very steep. So it's running an Hyperledger Fabric. It's running on Fabric because even the Hyperledger developer community, the project is huge. I tell you, there's a lot of advancement even in blockchain that a lot of us are not aware of. Now, let me say this again. The first thing that will happen to you as an enterprise or a government agency or institutions, when you try to implement your use case, is you will discover that there is a difference between reality and theory. So now, and I will say this again, when it comes to the requirements, of your projects, like for example, something like, I'll cite an example of data residency. I will cite an example of your throughput, transaction throughput. You will notice that, some of this technology, even blockchain, has challenges in this area. When it comes to scalability, when it comes to interoperability, when it comes to even security and the rest of it. So implementation is really not as simple as we are talking about it. I have been on this journey for more than 4 years, learning the enterprise blockchain after understanding the public blockchain, and they are two different worlds. And there's still a lot to learn. So it's running an Hyperledger Fabric, and that community is also recognizing the place for interoperability between the public and the private blockchain. And that's a whole lot of discussion to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, let's have the last question from the audience. How I wish, we can accommodate everyone, but as you know, we are seriously running out of time. So this is what's going to happen. I'm taking the power, from the anchor now. We will have one more person from the audience. Then I will follow up with another question, to Mr. Deji, because he hasn't spoken so much as here. So once we're done with that, I will ask all these 3 fine gentlemen to provide, their final thoughts, and we'll be done with this. Are we okay with that? Thank you for your compliance.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bukora, and I'm here on behalf of Roku. I have a question, 2 questions actually, but the first is regards to the Finance Act, 2023 Finance Act, that imposed a certain percentage, I think 10% on profits from digital assets that are disposed of. I just wanted to know if, I'm not sure there's a representative of the FIRS here, given that our industries, we've been talking about, we're not regulated. Given that we're not regulated, I just wanted to know if there was some kind of conversation with the CBN and the Security and Exchange Commission before that was passed into law, because I'm not exactly sure how we're able to tax an industry that is not regulated. My point is, we're asking for regulation isn't just for our own benefits, it's also for the benefits of the government. So it's not just we looking for something that is just beneficial to us, it's also going to benefit the government. So I really did not understand the rationale, the conversations that happened at the back end that necessitated taxing an industry that is not. So I just wanted to know what that conversation looks like and what that conversation might look like, moving forward. Secondly, is regard certain filings. Some regulators in other countries require that the industry makes certain filings, and FTR filings. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't the SEC and the CBN interested in these filings as well? I feel like when we discuss regulation, it seems as if we, the stakeholders in the industry, are asking for something that, it's just our advantage. We want to regulate this, that when we're trying to interface with other people in other countries, Nigerians, you guys are doing what you're doing. It's not just for our own benefit. It's also going to benefit, other things that the SEC and the CBN and other relevant regulators have to do. So I just wanted us to answer the question from, filing's perspective and how it's even possible to tax an industry that is not regulated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. For the first question, I think it will be fair, not to bother this fine gentleman, on that. Yes. Okay, but wait first. Yeah. Yes, because the question is actually directed at FRS. And before I continue, do we have anybody from the FRS here? Okay, fine. Since we don't have, I think we can allow Mr. Suleiman to respond to the first question.
If I understood, your question has to do with taxing digital assets, which was included in the Finance Act 2023, correct? Okay, let me put it straight. My understanding is that the industry is regulated. Digital asset is regulated. If you look at the SEC pronouncement in September 2020, they did mention that these are the classes of digital assets, including cryptocurrency, including tokens, some security or derivatives or utility, whether it is traded in an exchange somewhere. So that classification is there, one. Secondly, the Digital Asset Service Regulation came out last year, around May, and it gives clarity in terms of how the digital assets will be traded. We have the custodianship side with licensing, we have the digital exchange side, we have the offering platform side. So now we have a regulatory clarity, and based on that, they are now expanded. The capital gain tax is being expanded to accommodate digital assets. So that is why they are saying, okay, digital asset should be taxed under capital gain tax. So it's regulated the industry. That is why the Finance Act is coming up with this. But up till now, we have to wait for a tax circular from the FIRS, I believe, to come up with clarity on how this will be done. Because under the CGT, you need a transaction of almost around above 100 million before it qualifies for a CGT tax. So these are some of the things that we need to wait and see.
Do you want to still respond to the second question?
The second question is, I think is a domain I'm very familiar with. Has to do with suspicious transaction reporting in the enterprise operation. And this is a mandatory thing when you send money in and out or you suspend. It doesn't matter whether you are operating crypto or maybe normal bank. That the financial intelligence unit, you have to file that. Again, there's a problem with all that. And what she said is just correct. When you tell regulators, just like what we did with EFCC, we wrote to financial intelligence unit. So in our firm, we have a solution we call compliance as a service for startups. And we do notice that startups are left without bearing. And we needed to guide them because they want to comply. You just see that these people that are doing this business want to comply. But the way to comply, they have no idea. And because we're getting a lot of those people in our hub, we wrote to financial intelligence unit. I will say, please, can we get a template that will allow digital asset exchanges to report STR and suspicious activities to you, because it's a requirement. And I don't want to tell you our experience really. So we are not ready, kind of. It looks like we're not ready. And you see, when we're put on this gray list, it's not just only about the banks alone. It's about you can use digital asset to finance a lot of nefarious things. And we can choose to pick where we want to focus on. But this is not going away. You know, I had the privilege to train the Nigerian Army Cyber Warfare Command. And what they wanted to know about digital assets is, can you use it to fund terrorism? The answer is capital yes. So what are you doing in protecting our cyberspace when you don't understand how this cryptocurrency actually flows? Who is holding what? What tool do you use to actually monitor these things? So the conversation is beyond this place.
Yes, definitely. You know, that is why I wanted to, you know, wrap up. Thank you very much. Like I promised, I'll ask him one more question, you know, and they will give you a final thoughts, and we'll be done with this panel session. And I want to go back to the regulatory landscape, you know, because it is really, really very important if we intend, you know, to milk, you know, all benefits, you know, for the sake of Nigerians, you know, within the blockchain as a sector. So, and a very good way of ensuring that solutions are implemented, you know, to the benefits of a society is to have models, you know, and copy those models. So having said that, in your experience, can you provide us with information on countries that have implemented blockchain regulations, you know, that have resulted into benefits, you know, both socially and also economically? You know, what regulations, you know, for which countries can Nigeria leverage on, you know, to ensure that it achieves, you know, its own goals, you know, and objectives, you know, for a blockchain, you know, powered country? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So, regulation is key. As a matter of fact, the fundamental bedrock for which we're going to be building the whole benefit you want to get from digital assets. So, two things. You can agree with me that if your country is secure, the value, I don't know how to quantify it really. I just talked about terror financing, for example. If you're able to mitigate that, that is one. If you're able to send money to you and nobody knows who I'm sending to or who is sending, is a problem. And I remember the year 2020, 2019, the Financial Action Task Force, who is the global watchdog for anti-money laundering, said digital assets is giving us concern because people can send that anonymously, or if you like, anonymously between themselves. And we don't know who is sending what, which value, which terror group, which, you know, for where. And so for that reason, we need to come out with a standard. And we're coming to regulation, right? There should be a standard where if you send money from any part of the world, the way we have our SWIFT, you know, identifying the sender and identifying the receiver, and we know where the money is going to for what reason. And they sanction that this must be implemented within cryptocurrency. And it became a very big issue globally. How do we do that? This technology does not support this and all that, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to know the things. Go fix it within the global cryptocurrency space, and then we can now begin to open up the adoption for these assets. And so global think tank came together. And I was fortunate to be one because I was part of the global blockchain business council. And I was sitting on the AML CFT working with them. And 130 technical experts globally decided to see how we can come up with a standard we call travel rule standard. So that standard had to be implemented by different countries. And that was past 2020. And before we were kept in the gray list, Nigeria has no idea there's a standard like that. And so those regulations, now if you're sending money as bad as Switzerland looks like, you can send your money there to hide it. If you do, you have to be able to show if you're sending any value above $1,000.
Sorry, because of time, let me ask you, which countries, can you name?
Yeah, so I'm giving you countries. So if you said this is just one on transactions to know who is sending, then I think we should look at the model of the Europe model. So if Europe just launched a holistic regulation and it became effective June this year, so it's very big. Yeah, and that regulation talks about the processes for you to mint stablecoin within the country. And that regulation also defines how an exchange can be registered within a country, and you cannot operate with that country if you are not registered within that country. I think we can start from there, in my view. So MiCA is the best model we can look at currently.
Thank you very much, Justin, for that. Most appreciated. So finally, let's have your final thoughts. 15 seconds for Mr. Suleiman. 2 seconds for Mr. Deji. 15 seconds.
Let there be an engagement, collaboration, and regularity between the regulatory agencies and the industry for the adoption of blockchain technology to drive financial inclusivity and economic growth and development.
Okay, so for me, I want to speak to round up with INERA. Then, because in INERA, I'm sitting like in the middle of what is happening. And most of the things, I think many people here don't know the progress INERA has been doing. And I think maybe the central bank should do more for people to understand. The INERA has gone very far. A lot is happening. And the offer Mr. Fadele offered all of us to say, come to central bank and innovate, and they're welcome. I'm a direct, example of that. We're working on a solution to solve what someone asked, which is a stable coin that will power Nigerian economy. Like you mentioned, USDT, we had that 2 years ago. And we started building a Nigerian INERA PEG stable coin 2 years ago. And we refuse to bring it to the domain because we need to work with regulators. And where they don't understand, we make them understand that, right? Before we come through. And we've done series of back and forth with central bank. Plenty committees, plenty, technical sessions. And now, I think we're on the same page with them. Now, we have moved away from, we call the token CNGS. And it's a consortium Naira PEX and eNaira PEX stablecoin that you will see on your exchanges for cross-border, internationally and locally in a few months to come. So we're making moves. And we're not where we are. So just watch out. And if you have anything, again, just final answer. If you have anything you are building and you want to leverage the eNaira platform to do that, please reach out. The central bank is very open. Just a simple letter, partner with them, build your stack, get the API, power this economy for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's a testimony from somebody that is not CBN. And let me just say this, my final thought is that instead of sitting and judging eNaira as if it's not our own, I think we should try to understand how even the regulator may be handicapped in some areas. For example, let me just give an hint. I will cite a scenario. Regulations they are dimensioned according to risk. The regulatory tools, they are mostly risk management tools. And so they are likely to reflect the risk that the regulator is seeing. So if the risk is big, regulation may look as if it's stifling. If it's small, then it looks as if it's enabling. So what I want to say is that have we looked at a situation where, for example, the crypto community or the exchanges can empower the NFIU with adequate data. And then the NFIU can in turn empower the SEC with adequate insights when it comes to risk. To say that, okay, the risk measurement for crypto today is actually low, and then you can lower the barrier. And then the SEC in itself can advise the CBN and say, these are the list of companies, crypto companies, that have registered with us. Can you provide them financial services? And then we have something that is driven by, you know, that is driven by informed data. And then we can continue to evaluate that in a constructive way.
So, on this note, we have come to the end of this very beautiful, exclusive panel session. And I want to use the opportunity to appreciate our fine gentlemen, you know, for distilling the topic, you know, for this session. Please, a round of applause. And more importantly, we also want to appreciate every one of you here, all the participants, you know, for your participation, for your audience, for your time. Because without you, we will have just been talking to ourselves. So for that, we really appreciate every one of you. And I want you guys to enjoy, you know, the rest of the event. Thank you. So please, let's stand up. Let's take a bow like they have been doing in the Senate recently. You can never tell, you may be the 49th ministerial nominee. Let's take a bow, please. You thought I was looking. All right, thank you. A round of applause. You have been wonderful participants.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we'll come to the final panel discussion. And this one says, building blockchain infrastructure to strengthen the innovation ecosystem. To moderate this panel, we have Bashira Hassan. Please put your hands together. And then we have Dr. Aminu Lawal. Please put your hands together. And then we have Fejiro Hanu. Please put your hands together. And then finally we have Modupe Ativi. Please put your hands together for them as they come off the stage. Okay, so we have Engineer Kaka replacing Dr. Aminu Lawal.
All right, good afternoon. I think there's one more person, right?
There's one? Is it not only is it not on the it's on the list?
No, Kuletawa is replaced by Modupe Ativi.
No.
Modupe is not.
From different organizations. Yeah. How did that happen? Okay, I'm actually replacing Kuletawa. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so I guess you just sit down.
No, please. Kuletawa is from CBI.
All right.
Okay, so we would have Senator, the former president of CBN, on this panel session. Please put your hands together for him. And I'm thankful he's joining this because we're talking about the innovation ecosystem. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for your patience and engaging with us in such an interactive discussion. Before we dive right into it, we'll just take like 30 minutes for our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us about what you do, and then we'll go right into questions. 30 seconds. Sorry. I know it's lunchtime, sorry. 30 seconds, my bad. Even between my sugar level has dropped. Thank you. So 30 seconds, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sari Sukaka. I'm the Acting Director, Digital Economy Development Department of the National Information Technology Development Agency. a government employee. I can claim to be a policy maker. I'm currently pursuing a PhD in blockchain technology at Golden University. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I must say we have a very active crowd today, so well done. And a big thank you for the host and organizers, Nita, Steve and Ugina as well. My name is Pedro Hanwa Boje. I am the founder and CEO of Patricia. For most of you who do not know, Patricia is one of the foremost leading crypto exchanges in Nigeria. We were actually the first crypto exchange out of Nigeria back then in 2017. And I'm very excited to be on this panel, talk about innovation. That is something that we do very well. And we have broken some things in the past, but we are moving forward. It's nice to be here, and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Senator Henry. I am the lead partner at Infusion Lawyers, where I also head the blockchain and virtual asset practice of the law firm. I am the immediate past president of SLIBA, one of the hosts of these events. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for making the introductions very short, less than 30 seconds. My name is Bashira Hassan, and I'll be moderating the session today. I lead the Programs, Partnership and Policy Engagement desk at the Office for Nigerian Digital Innovation, which is a subsidiary of NIDA. I'm also on the Director General's policy team. So today we'll be talking about infrastructure. And you'd all agree with me that infrastructure is critical for all of this conversation that we're having. Our activities will really not be, it will be difficult or challenging to execute if we don't have infrastructure in place. While I understand that the time is fast spent, we'll try as much as possible to have one question each from me to the panelists, then before we now throw it out to the audience here, because when the last panel conversation was going on, I saw some more people had their hands up, so we'll throw those questions to the panelists here today. Let's just dive right into it. So my first question goes to my boss here, Engineer Kaka. In your opinion, what are the required key components to build a robust blockchain infrastructure in Nigeria, and how can it contribute to strengthening the overall innovation ecosystem? You'd agree with me that NIDA sort of laid the foundation in terms of providing centers to enable some of these activities within the blockchain industry. But what do you think would drive this as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much, my moderator. I'm sitting here not as your boss, but a finalist at your mercy. A very good question, I believe, and there are three key words that I can pick there, which we clearly need to understand before I can respond to this. The infrastructure itself, the robustness of that infrastructure, meaning that not only infrastructure for the sake of infrastructure, but how robust will that infrastructure be, of course, to promote innovation. We're all experts here, I believe, and the digital environment we are in here definitely calls for an infrastructure that aligns with the reality, meaning that time factor is at which this infrastructure being utilized or used by the users is critical for it to become robust. It's no longer the conventional or rudimentary aspect of infrastructure deployment. If you take away like broadband penetration or reliable internet connectivity, these three critical components of the infrastructure, the digital ID, the payment gateways, and the data centers that can allow near real or real-time transactions. Those are the kind of infrastructure that I believe can promote innovations. An infrastructure that can guarantee or should guarantee within the digital economy that can take aspect of the security, can take care of interoperability, can take care of scalability, and they can allow integration through a standard open API. Those are the kind of infrastructure I believe should drive innovations within the blockchain technology, or the emerging technology, not only blockchain. Because the digital economy you are in is driven by these emerging technologies, to which blockchain is one of it. We have a couple of these infrastructures that have been dropped either as an intervention by the government or directly by the private sector. I remember in this morning, one of the participants made a very good statement that is not only brutally clear or true, but is very apt and timely. He said, I think I'm completely right, that there is an appetite for the technology with or without the government. So right to that, and looking at the space we are in, I will add that yes, there is equal appetite to investment, mostly by the private sector, to ensure that we put the right enabling infrastructure that can guarantee these innovations. And these investments or deployment of this infrastructure needs to be put under a guided framework that can guarantee safety of that for that investment, and also provide security and also return of investment for this infrastructure. So I think from the government perspective, let me share this information. Perhaps maybe it can add to the discussions. We are currently participating at the G20 meetings, where the discussion around digital public infrastructure. And under this digital public infrastructure, aspect of that digital identity, aspect of payment gateways, aspect of data center, aspect of reliable and meaningful connectivity, those are the discussions. So a framework is being developed right now, the tools are going to become up right now, and I'm happy Nigeria is participating in that as a guest member, though not fully a member of the G20, but is participating as a guest member toward adopting those tools. And the essence is there are global best practices where these DPIs are deployed. So Nigerian government is going to participate and sign into all these deployments so that we come down and put those foundational infrastructure that can allow us to have what I may call a super infrastructure or super apps that can allow that interoperability, that can allow that integration, that scalability to come. So that there will be a framework that can be operated within maybe an open API that can easily allow interoperability and integration regardless of which technology are using to deploy these things. So those are the simple, the little efforts I think the government is doing, which I believe that is an attempt in the right direction that can allow us to have this robust infrastructure in place so that the startups, the innovators with bright mind can have access to this infrastructure. They can cut their brain and get real-time response to whatever that so that at least the ecosystems can grow with the support of that enabling infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So my next question is to Fejiro, right? When you, in your opening remark, you talked about your experience, and you mentioned something about Patricia being broken, and I mean you fixed that and moved on, or perhaps I didn't get you very clearly. Well, I want to pick from your experience, right? This dialogue series or this session is for us to learn from one another. And I believe in one of the sessions, someone mentioned the importance of collaboration, right? So riding on that, what steps do you think can be taken to establish a reliable and scalable blockchain network that can accommodate a wide range of applications and use cases? You will agree with me that from your work in the past, you've learned so much from some of the things you've done. So if you could just shed some light on that for us to take one or two things back home.
Thank you. So to recap your question, what can I share that will help collaboration?
My question is, what steps can be taken to establish a reliable and scalable blockchain network that can accommodate a wide range of applications and use cases?
Well, I mean, it really comes down to the context, because when you say blockchain network, have you designed a new blockchain like Ethereum network or something of sorts? Whereas I think that was the case. You can look at the in-naira agreement as a very good example. It really comes down to the use case, because what I've seen is blockchains are only as good as the utility. Who is using it and how are they using it? So it comes down to the design and the use case. How is it used? What is it used for? And who is it used for? What audience is this technology going to address? They can go deeper into things like interoperability, in terms of how can the in-naira interact with Bitcoin? How can the in-naira interact with Ethereum or Polygon and these other mainstream networks? Then we can have conversations around building bridges. Basically, a bridge is like when NCC came up with the idea of porting, where you can port from MTN to Glo, but in this scenario, it's communication. How can one blockchain speak to the other? Somebody in the audience asked a very interesting question, which was, what blockchain is the in-naira built on? I don't know the answer to that question, right? But depending on what the answer is, it can determine how can we, collaborate. And also, since I'm speaking to a lot of founders and players in the space, collaboration is major key. Very early on in the space, there were really no events like this. It was non-existent. And coming here today and having such a crowd, it speaks volumes. We are on the right path. But again, there is always a room for more and a room for improvement, and it's really on collaboration. Today there is not enough work in terms of collaboration. The blockchain ecosystem in Nigeria, it's very young, but very hot. So how do we come together? There are existing groups, some of which I'm part of, like the GCC, the Coalition for Crypto, who are coming together to begin to start these conversations, like CBAN, for example. So how do you as an existing player, right, not wait for these groups to find you, but how do you network and begin to lend your voice, because we are stronger together. My grandpa used to always say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think we're at this pivotal point. I believe regulation is coming. I believe for your companies and your startups, you want to also have regulation as well. So how are we contributing and lending our voice towards this picture and this future that we are trying to paint in Nigeria?
Thank you so much, Major. I think that you spoke very well on the fact that regulation is coming. Like, globally, that's the conversation that we are having at every this new technology or this technology that has emerged. How do we manage it? Otherwise, it becomes a wildfire that is untamable. So I'm actually happy about the fact that the majority of people in this room are receptive towards feedback. And I mean, for us, is not regulating to stifle, but to actually enable and to foster growth and development ultimately. So thank you. So my last question, right? My session is very fast. Can I get a round of applause for myself? My last question. So to you, Senator, right? Can you speak a bit about how you think that investment in blockchain infrastructure can help address current challenges in the various sectors around, say, healthcare, asset management, supply chain, finance, and ultimately enable Nigerian businesses to compete on a global scale? While I understand that policy is just one leg up in terms of laying the foundation for infrastructure. For instance, Nigeria enacted this Nigerian Startup Act, but how do we leverage some of those things to take it further? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a fantastic question. And That reminds me of one of the engagements that the industry, the blockchain industry, had with the CBN very early on, way before the CBN introduced the cryptocurrency Stakeholder. It was a very interesting conversation about how blockchain technology could apply across various sectors, health sector, agriculture, financial system, and all of that. It was a very important and interesting conversation because the understanding at that meeting was that there was need for Nigeria to be positioned in a manner that we could maximize the opportunities that this promising blockchain, promising blockchain technology could provide. Committees were supposed to be set up to immediately follow up on how CBN could make that happen. The rest is history. In terms of investments in the space, very important issue we have to look at. Already, not just in the blockchain space, across the tech sector in the country and most African countries, we are already seeing that investments are mainly driven by foreign funds. We're not seeing a lot of local funders in the space. And that brings us to policy. How are we able to use policy to encourage investments in infrastructure? And we cannot talk about infrastructure if we're not talking about national ICT. What are we doing about local content in the blockchain space? Yes, there's the Ethereum, there's the Polygon, and the rest of them. There's the Binance, mentioned them. How about the local indigenous players as well? So I would say that governments, in collaboration with the private sector, still has a lot of work to do in terms of helping to project the blockchain ecosystem in a manner that can attract investment in infrastructure as well. The national ICT policy of the country mentions that it is critical for the governments to see that there is local content in the aspect of ICT. And that brings me to the e-Naira as well. I recall when the e-Naira was to be developed, and there was an invitation for developers to come up and be part of those who will build the e-Naira. Eventually, for me personally, I thought that was one of the golden opportunities for the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government to show that they can put their money where their heart is. How do I mean? When the e-Naira needed that developer or ICT partner, I could see all of the numbers in the room in terms of those who said they could help build the e-Naira. I think that while the CBN could have used BITS, I think that's what it's called, the foreign company, I think the CBN should have used that opportunity to also invest in some local content. You would have expected that any of those other companies, where Interstellar and the rest of them, would have also been brought along so that they could help you build. And this is important because, like Fadele was saying from CBN, it's not really about starting. You have to be able to sustain. Now you can imagine how much millions or maybe billions of naira must have gone into that. Today, I was on my way here, and I could see a lot of stuff trending on Twitter. One of them is that naira is now over 900 naira per dollar. And whether you believe it or not, someone went out there and says that Binance is the problem. Now, this is the same way we could recall, someone did say that Aboki FX was the problem. We are back here again. What am I talking about? We need to genuinely understand blockchain technology, the ecosystem, and be able to drive real investments. I will challenge NIDA, and we are very ready to partner with NIDA on this. NIDA needs to also help galvanize interest in venture capital funding, right? That is one area I haven't seen a lot of people, including the Nigerian government, focus. Even the state governments are not helping with this. You would expect that if the federal government is busy with national security issues and all that, the state government should be able to drive venture capital. Lagos states, with all the taxes and billions, should be able to lead in this respect, so that we can drive investments in infrastructure. We can't say we can secure the future of Africa in blockchain if we cannot invest in local infrastructure as well. We should be able to go to Jamaica, go to China, and also build CBDCs for other countries. It shouldn't always be the other way around. And I know that there are Nigerians in the room here who are more than capable of doing this. And this is how we can also attract foreign direct investments in the country. There's no way, a friend of mine, Professor Stakeholder, whom many of us know, would say that the value of the Naira is not in any CBN headquarters. It is in the factories and the industries. So if we cannot invest in infrastructure, there is no sustainable growth and development for the economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking very passionately about the need to harness local content. Just to clarify a few things, now there is a national digital economy policy and strategy. I think it has overtaken the national ICT policy. And you're right, we also carried that promotion of indigenous content, local content. NIDA has a subsidiary that is dedicated to local content. But I mean, this can only go far if we actively collaborate, really. And so you're absolutely correct, really. And while we like to or tend to hammer on the federal level to drive activities, it's also critical for us to also hold our states accountable, right? And again, I'll say this because I'm very passionate about the Nigerian Startup Act. I sit on the implementation committee. And one of the things that we're trying to see is how states will be able to adopt this. If states adopt, we have so many. We talk about how we have undocumented billionaires across different states. I hear a lot about Anambra, right? So if we're able to sort of redirect some of this energy towards the state and say, oh, you know what, invest in your state. There are so many talents. It shouldn't just be Lagos State. It shouldn't just be Abuja. There's Kano, there's Abia, there's Kogi State. I'm from Kogi State, so that's it, but I so yeah, so there are all of this. So I think it's really critical, right, for us to also hold our states accountable, right? And also, we talk about collaboration. Someone made a comment about not really putting a face to the government, people in the government presently. And that's because I've found that young people tend to shy away from engaging the government because they assume that, oh, this government, what do they even know? So eventually, when they engage, they see that, oh, we're not so dumb after all, right? So let's not shy away from challenging the government to say, I want to work with you. I recall that when we were putting the national blockchain policy together, some industry leaders, quote and unquote, in the blockchain ecosystem reached out to say, you know what, we want to be on the steering committee because at the end of the day, if you're not part of this conversation, whether you like it or not, this conversation will take place. And whatever the outcome of that conversation is, you'll have to live with it ultimately. And that's why they say, you know what, we have to be on this steering committee. And from that, we're able to also incorporate them. So I hear you loud and clear. And I'm also, as a young person, sort of challenging us to hold the government accountable, hold people accountable. Thank you very much, Susie. But do we have any questions from the audience? I have seen 3 hands up. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. So we'll have a woman, because I'm biased, ask the first question. Lady in green, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Omotila Desres. All right. We've been talking about everything tech, right? And it seems like we bypassed a very, very fundamental element in this conversation, which is the people, and also the non-technical people. I'm not a technical person. I study linguistics, right? I'm a growth specialist. I'm into marketing and business development. But then I work a lot with the tech ecosystem. But there's one particular thing that I'm very, very passionate about that I've not really seen in full effect, which is the place of awareness and sensitization. There's no way you can talk about integration of some of these things and you want to drive innovation and you want people to be involved in it if the same passion that we put into campaign and politics, if we do not put it into creating awareness. Now, I remember when the political season came in, I got a lot of text messages. And I'm wondering, where did you get my phone number from? I really wish that some of the efforts that we put into certain aspects of conversations towards development, right? I really do wish that it can also be pushed into this particular conversation that we are talking about. And I say this to say that there are a lot of times when it comes to policy and communication to the public, we don't do so much. The best we see is either a jingle on radio and adverts on some of the national TV stations, and sometimes it ends there. But I believe that there is a more practical approach that we can take, aside from talking with stakeholders like banks and institutions that will help with implementation of some of these things. What other approach is the government and even the private sector, what other approach are we putting in place to ensure that Yasikira and Bashiru at Igbo understand what is going on? And because, okay, we're talking right now, and the lady was saying that the blockchain ecosystem is not regulated. And then I'm hearing that either it is not regulated, or it is unrecognized, or it is banned. Now, a person who is on the street will not know the difference between these things. So what are we doing to ensure that sensitization and awareness is done in that light, to ensure that Chukwudi and Azan will understand what is going on?
Thank you very much. So we'll take all the questions before we spread them out, right? Okay. Yes, the gentleman with the, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Victor Akoma Phillips. I'm with Interstellar. Thanks to the panel. Thank you, because somebody mentioned something very critical, and that is the e-Naira. 9 years ago, banks were going through a lot of problems, and then they started investing in infrastructure. My question is going to be a bit more zeroed down into the topic of what this panel is about, and which is infrastructure. If we are discussing infrastructure, you cannot discuss infrastructure without talking about being collaborative. It's being very expensive or capital intensive. It ultimately also being innovative. No matter what we build today, all of it is sitting on an infrastructure. Simply put, the way to the island, between the island and the mainland, you start mainland bridge, or you could go through Lekki Eco Bridge or something. So you have those infrastructure built there, and then multiple of cars. Within the telco space in Nigeria today, you have Nigeria Interconnect. He talked about, I think it was his video that talked about porting, number porting. When I managed that project with MTN, all of us, regardless of Etisalat, Airtel, or MTN, we all sat down together, we all came together, and we did Sakadon ports. When it was time for SIM registration, we all came together and we all went to NCC, those days of Professor Ndukwe, and we all sat together and we built the SIM registration. Today everybody enjoys it. I'm surprised we don't have Galaxy Backbone here today. If Galaxy Backbone is here today, I'll probably say a few things. I built their infrastructure of what they're using to work today, using the V-block converged infrastructure. I built 80% of the data center banks in Nigeria today, ranging from UP all the way to Sterling Bank. And that was why the day it was announced that crypto was being put down in terms of being banned, I was on the 7th floor with the central bank, with the Sterling Bank CEO, and we're smiling and laughing because infrastructure is the key. In fact, if there's any topic that is most important this afternoon, unfortunately, it was the last one. It's probably the most one. And that's what's driven Interstellar to become Africa's blockchain infrastructure company. My brother, one of some people were saying the other day that we should all come together. But we cannot come together if we do not even understand why we are coming together. Please, infrastructure is us coming together. You are all leveraging Ethereum. You're all leveraging Bitcoin. You're all leveraging all these things. You don't own anything until you own the infrastructure. That is the way it even starts from. And that's why I want to leave today by letting everybody know what started transforming the banking industry was when they started owning their own infrastructure, really. Because they now started owning what was, I can say it authoritatively, because I was the first with VMware, Cisco EMC, Project Manager that installed and built all of them. Then Union Bank changed and transformed. Someone came to my house on the last week Saturday. I said, oh, you were the one that built in Union Bank's infrastructure. I said, they changed and killed everything they had, put in new ones. Today they can do both cloud and on-prem. So, Engineer Kaka, I love what you are trying to do, sir. And I'm telling you, that is where to start from. We need to start owning our infrastructure. We need to start owning on that. It's not the solutions you build on it. Don't get me wrong. That's why I started with the example of the road and the cars on top of it. Most of us are talking about the cars on the road, but we're talking about the main road itself, the actual stuff. That's the infrastructure. So that is what this topic of this one is about. And we need to invest. And it comes back to what Senator was saying. You need money. You need that funding to be able to do that. And so far, so good. Unfortunately, Convexity is not here. We are starting to come together. And the ultimate thing is for us to come together, which you've been hammering, my brother, that if we don't all come together and really start doing stuff that we can actually measure and see, we'll be having these kind of meetings and nothing will happen. Infrastructure, funding, for the purpose of being collaborative, know it's capital intensive and know it's innovative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for lending your voice to the conversation. I mean, the first step for us is having this dialogue ultimately, and we hope that, I mean, it's not just enough for us to talk. We can talk, have the paper, but we need to put in the work, and we need to also remember the importance of sustainability. So thank you very much. Okay, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I'm Eric Charlotte. I'm a contributing writer for Bitcoin Magazine, and I will be doubling up my question as contribution to this conversation based on what the previous speakers have said. When we're talking about driving sustainable economic growth and development, I mean, infrastructure is of utmost importance. And when we're trying to lay and develop on existing infrastructure, I believe developing on decentralized infrastructure should be our core objective. And my question to this panel is, what are the solutions, what are the approach in terms of development on decentralized infrastructures? I mean, when I'm talking about decentralized infrastructure, I mean infrastructures that are truly decentralized, that are not being owned by individuals. And when we think about this, we know scaling e-naira, scaling whatever we're doing on blockchain itself would not be the required adoption level we want it to be if we don't build and develop on decentralized infrastructures. Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you very much. So maybe you will take the feedback on awareness, and so maybe you will give us your closing remarks as well. So anyone that answers question will leave us with a parting word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the last aspect, because it's like it just piqued my mind when he mentioned the aspect of decentralized infrastructure. I think that is apt because rather to what I said earlier, we cannot away from collaboration. In fact, innovations, I believe, is bound by collaboration. Until we collaborate, you share ideas, then you reframe your thoughts so that you come up with an excellent solution that can work for all. The decentralized approach will allow us to have that ownership mentioned by one of the commentators. That yes, when we have that decentralized approach, we are sort of like segmenting the infrastructure investments. Everyone that has a stake to or intend to have a stake to have a room to play, to come and drop his investment. And that's why I mentioned earlier also that this infrastructure we are putting, they should be in a systematic way in such a way that it can guarantee sustainability. And that can only come if we build with interoperability in mind, if we build with open API so that integration can come easy. Without that, we're still going to have an infrastructure that is siloed and definitely is going to not allow us to achieve what we want to achieve. So collaboration is a key. We have to collaborate, particularly because the capital-intensive nature, as mentioned also by one of the speakers. Government cannot do it alone, and I believe the private sector also, even if they can do it, they need to come together so that they can put the right infrastructure. And of course, awareness, I believe, is the responsibility of everyone within the ecosystem. The more we participate in creating that awareness at the level we are, I think the more we create that inclusion to the extent the Basira mentioned, the Mala how to sell tomato in the market, everyone will be aware that there's something for him within the blockchain ecosystem. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your questions. To jump in, I'll also speak on decentralization, and I'll also acknowledge the feedback around infrastructure. I think that that is very important, that is necessary for us to move forward as an industry. So on decentralization, I would say that the ethos of decentralization is really about it not being owned by one entity, or there is no central ownership. We all own our own unique versions of this infrastructure, and we can manage it, and we can utilize it in very creative ways, and for us to get to that point, I'll piggyback on what Nakaka just said, which is open APIs. If every project, right, is able to build out some form of open APIs in each unique way that allows Patricia to speak to Roku, Patricia to speak to Interstellar, right? It begins to build that foundation for decentralization. You see, today what we have are internationally decentralized applications. I don't really know of any local players who is building a DeFi product. And there is an opening. Most of the companies today are largely centralized. Patricia is centralized. So how do we begin to build that infrastructure? It really starts with us opening up our systems to allow collaboration. My takeaway and my signing out would be again thanking the organizers of this event, and also to reaffirm the industry, reaffirm the stakeholders and everybody here on Patricia's commitment to the space. We have been around for about 6 years, and in the last 6 years, I would dare say that we have literally been a very strong pioneer of this industry. We have built a lot of very interesting products. As a matter of fact, we launched the first ever Bitcoin debit card in Africa. That's amongst allowing people buy airtime with crypto. It was really interesting at the time because there was no utility. So for the first time, Nigerians could pick up their phone and buy airtime powered by Bitcoin. They could pick up their phone and pay for their house bill, electricity bill, powered by crypto. When we launched the Bitcoin debit card in 2019, we got 25,000 new sign-ups in 6 hours. That was just a testament to show that the industry is ready, and at the same time, Patricia, we are ready. In the last couple of months, we've had very interesting times.
We had a liquidity challenge and we're working through it. And I'm here to reaffirm our stance in the space and also to reaffirm our commitment that we are not going anywhere. We are here for the long haul. We've been here for 6 years and watch us go for the next 60. Thank you.
For me, I would say that I am happy, particularly happy, that the national blockchain policy has come. And I am also happy that there is a context to it. One of the NITDA representatives here emphasized or pointed out that the national blockchain policy is flows naturally from the federal government national digital economy policy and strategy, which means that this is something that we can call our own. Now, the challenge for us, as far from the infrastructure perspective, as stakeholders, we need to be able to rally around the NITDA and other concerned government agencies to ensure that blockchain technology is properly and better understood. And we have seen a lot of confusion around what blockchain is and the risk around it, especially when it is applied in the financial services sector. I think that we have come to a point where we need to start engaging better. I am happy that as far as infrastructure and investment is concerned, there are certain things that have been set to make that happen. First of all, the confusion around whether blockchain is legal or crypto is illegal or legal, that has been put to rest. Basically, specifically by two legislation by the National Assembly of Nigeria. One is the Finance Act of 2022, which recognizes digital assets. So no one should say out there that crypto is illegal or you are waiting for a governor somewhere to tell you whether it is illegal or not. Secondly, there is the Money Laundering Act of 2022, which was also made by the National Assembly of this country. One of the provisions of that act is that virtual asset service providers are now recognized as players in the financial services sector. This is a National Assembly pronouncement or legislation. So there should be no question around whether the cryptocurrency circular by the CBN overrules these things or not. Let's remember that the cryptocurrency circular of 5 February 2021 was way back before the Finance Act of 2022 was introduced, as well as the Money Laundering Act of 2022 was introduced. As a matter of fact, when I was the president of CBAN then, I remember one of the engagements we had about this was that there was need for Nigeria to become compliant with international best practices on this matter. And we had to ensure that that was followed up at the National Assembly end. So today, the NFIU in this country can rightly and legally take all reports from virtual asset service providers or crypto exchanges regarding suspicious transactions and all the rest of them. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. I mean, in every meeting we have had with the CBN, we have encouraged the CBN to strengthen the NFIU by ensuring that they do what other financial intelligence units or agencies do all over the world. You don't discriminate. One of the speakers earlier said that there is need for us to understand that when it comes to regulation, technology neutrality is very important. When a regulator begins to sit in the headquarters and say that we don't want that regulation, that's innovation because it is bad, that is the beginning of the apocalypse. You do not do that. You have to focus on the technology and the service providers and the users around it. When you focus on crypto is used for terrorism financing, crypto is used for illicit transactions, therefore we don't want it. That is the biggest mistake you will make. Because in my law firm, for instance, there is no week we are not at the EFCC or the Nigerian police units looking at one fraud or the other involving this space. And the reason is this, and from all statistics we've seen, it got worse after the circular was issued. In other words, we are impairing proper law enforcement and investigations in that space. What we need, rather than scaring banks from crypto, what we need is to be able to educate banks and let them know that this appears to be the future. Please begin to engage and acquire all the capacity you can. In the US, in other countries, Switzerland, mention them, there is no central bank or reserve bank that comes up and writes a love letter saying, don't touch this. If you do, freeze accounts. It never happens. In the US, I'll tell you this, guess what? Not every bank, most banks in the US don't facilitate crypto transactions. Most of them. Is it because they got a letter? No, they did not get any letter. In the US, the Reserve Bank have left that conversation and decision in the hands of the banks to decide. You know the risk you're taking up. So it is left for you to acquire all the necessary infrastructure to ensure that you keep your KYC. I, on behalf of CBAN or on behalf of myself, I am encouraging and challenging the CBN to please go back to its policy in 2017 when the CBN issued a letter precisely 12th January of 2017 saying that there is need for banks to adopt KYC for the purpose of providing transaction services to people in that sector. That's where we need to go back to. We missed the point totally by dropping KYC and issuing a blanket ban, or so to speak. So, in wrapping up, in just a second, we all have a role to play, and we are very happy that NITDA has taken the courageous step. The initial version of the National Blockchain Policy I saw actually recognized and mentioned the cryptocurrency circular of the CBN. But guess what? The one we have that was launched recently removed it totally, meaning that NITDA and other stakeholders in that sector already recognize that you cannot have a national blockchain policy recognize an illegal circular. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, spoken so passionately. So can we have another round of applause for my panelists? Thank you very much. So I just want to give a few passing words. Thank you all so much for sitting through this session. One of the people that made a comment talked about the importance and critical nature of infrastructure, and your participation today has further re-echoed that, right? The quality of people in this room shows that NITDA is doing something, right, we might not agree 100% on the same things, but the fact that we were all here today in this room and nudging us and telling us you need to do more. You've started this conversation as the first step, but there's so much more we can do together. We really appreciate that effort from you as well. I also just want to say that just to talk about the policy direction once again, that the policy direction talks about growing domestic talent in blockchain solutions development, foster innovation, and catalyze the adoption and use of blockchain technology. You'd all agree with me that Nigeria is blessed with talent, and what we like to do is when people hear that, oh, this is the market that is selling, everyone wants to go and acquire that knowledge really. We have several Scrum Masters, several project management people, several people in the tech ecosystem as well. Everyone is a tech bro or tech sis. I myself, when I do a little Excel magic in the office, I tell them I'm a tech sis. They refer to me as tech sis. So the hustle spirit is there, but all of this will be useless if we don't have the infrastructure to ride on ultimately, and that is why this conversation is very critical and important. Again, how would be able to, the government cannot do this alone. All of these efforts would be made possible through active collaboration. And I know that CBN got a lot of hammer or stick today, but I assure you that one of the reasons why we're able to confidently expunge the cryptocurrency from the last, the version that you saw was because we also have some form of buy-in and cooperation. You can also see that they are on the steering committee, and we have stakeholders that have reached out to us to say, how do we take a step back on some of these pronouncements or love letters, like you call it, that the government had issued in the past. And this conversation is continuous. NIDA is having this conversation with CBN, and of course we'll reach out to other government regulators like SEC to see how we'll be able to foster growth together and foster economic development. On that note, my name is Bashira. Thank you all for listening to my very short panel session, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we know you guys are tired, but bear with us. We have just a short section, and this short section is for product presentation, case study presentation for the blockchain ecosystem. I think House of Africa.
Okay, thank you so much. So next is the case study presentations. The first we have is Sir Victor Akoma Phillips from Interstellar. Please put your hands together for him. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, the only thing I want to start is a quote, one Jude. There's a guy, Jude. Jude, is he still here? He's part of the CBAN team. He's still there? Okay. Jude said, Nigerians talk a lot and do very little. I don't know if we all agree with that statement. I think I personally agree. Okay, somebody said doesn't agree. Okay, I agree totally. So, we are Interstellar. So we consider ourselves to be Africa's blockchain infrastructure company. In 2019, we're called by InterSwitch to actually help them to do something. They had just collected $200 million from Visa in 2018, and they were struggling to put together their blockchain roadmap together. And we were called. At the time, I was actually attending in 2019 Stellar Blockchain's first ecosystem meeting in Mexico City. At the time, I was also with the founder of Interstellar, Ernest, who's not here, is out there with Yele Badamosi at the moment. And Ernest was the same gentleman in 2005 that gave Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, his first Bitcoin. And we all met because we wanted to give Africa some leverage. And we went there for, he came on a separate ticket, I came on a separate ticket, because we both lived in Canada. And we wanted to make Africa own its own infrastructure, just what you heard me talking about passionately there. Because I personally believe that without you owning your infrastructure, genuinely do not own data sovereignty, you genuinely do not own data privacy, and a lot of other things. And my background being with Cisco, EMC, VMware, most of you know all these companies, I got to appreciate infrastructure, and I worked in MTN for 8 years. I managed the MTN SIM registration project. The last I did was the mobile money number portability. So I came into blockchain with that understanding, and then we joined to form Interstellar. So to date, we today own and help and run since 2019 InterSwitch's infrastructure that they're using for payments today. We also support and run Sterling Bank's infrastructure roadmap as well. We also do the same for Access Bank. All signed, we also do the same very recently with the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, PAPS, Afro-Exim, which most of you that in the industry also know about very well. And what we do for them is very simple, purely blockchain infrastructure. Recently, we presented with the central bank something very innovative, which was actually displayed. Unfortunately, Adjolu is not here. He was also in attendance with the current acting central bank governor. What were we trying to do? In 2023, 25th, you all saw what happened with the Naira. Everyone here suffered something significant. Most of you could not get access to money. And it was very simple. We're sitting on an infrastructure where interbank transfers and all of that called, there was a lot of issues. We built a solution that came out of the eNaira hackathon last year that was hosted and, awesomely done by the central bank. And we created a solution that could that had just one use case. We built infrastructure, but also went ahead to build something on top of it to encourage interbank transfers that would never fail, that would never be reversed. But most importantly, that from the time you send it from your bank app, you can trace to which direction it is, if it has gotten left to you, all the way the journey to when it gets to the recipient of who you are sending it to. So just in the event that something goes wrong, you can actually say it is here, and then you know where to. So in other words, one of the key things that blockchain does is transparency. You enjoy transparency of the money, journey of your money, which again reduces the overhead for the banks themselves in terms of customer issue resolution, because you don't want to know how much it costs. From the last data that I got from UBA, which one of the digital heads there, there's a failure rate of almost 4-point-something million failures of transactions every year, out of 160-something thousand. That is significant. In fact, you shouldn't even be seeing that level of failure, not to talk about that amount. So we've built that solution on the blockchain in partnership with African FinTech Foundry, and Interstellar, so that we can promote this. And all that solution, and now take note, this was built as a consortium so that everyone here can plug in. Now, this is why I say that if you don't own an infrastructure, you don't own it. So what have we done? We built an infrastructure, we've gotten that use case and put it in there. So we invite more people to come. So we have Access Bank plugged in, we have Wema Bank, we have UBA, and some more that will keep coming. That is why a platform like this, NICTA, we come together and we see how we can do more of this. On a final note, we have also done with InterSwitch and EcoBank something to encourage cross-border. But now, this is should I say the twist? Today, if my brother wants to move money, dollars for example, from his bank account, his DOM account in UBA to my brother's another DOM account also in GTB, that dollar would need to leave Nigeria first through SWIFT before he comes back and in the same country. That doesn't make sense. The day I realized that when I came back to Nigeria, I was saying, why? At the end of the day, it's because of the dependence on SWIFT. How about I get to build a solution where even if he wants to move his dollar or Naira, he can just go straight from here to here. So we have built a solution where not just can that happen, I can even as a Nigerian move Naira to him in Ghana and I still send my Naira and he receives it in cedis. that has been built and tested for the last 1.5 years. So I want to say thank you very much. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm particularly interested in that solution because I think when I got one of my funding, it was just a certain amount of money and it took almost like 20 days because it was coming from the account to another one. And that's when I discovered that some of the banks that we have, there are some other banks that are clearing accounts for them. So you could have, let's say, a bank A, and then bank B is the clearing and forwarding account for them, just because it's USD. So I'm really excited about the solution. So the next person we have to present their case study is Deborah or Jen Bede. Please put your hands together for her as she comes forward. Please keep clapping till she gets here. Thank you so much.
Hi, good day everyone. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, my respected colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols duly observed. Really excited to be here. It's a pleasure to be making this case study presentation at such an intellectual dialogue as this. And when Mr. Obina informed me this morning that I would be making a case study presentation, I already knew I was going to be talking about NFTs. For the few people that know me in the room, you all probably also know that I'll be talking about NFTs. So we've spoken about a couple of really amazing use cases of blockchain technology, but I will just focus on about 2 use cases that I feel haven't really been talked about enough, and that's NFT technology. And I'll also be drilling down on some other use cases under NFTs. I know that we're familiar with NFTs in terms of how you can leverage that technology to protect intellectual property. But I would be okay. So before I go, just to for people who might not know what NFTs are, in layman terms, NFTs are basically digital contracts that certify authenticity or ownership of an asset on the blockchain, pretty much. So the way you have your NYC certification, for instance, so imagine having a certification that proves ownership of something on the blockchain. That's what NFT stands for. And so the first case study would be on real estate fractional ownership, and also taking Singapore as an active case study, where we've seen that economy exploring NFTs for fractional ownership of real estate. So it means that we're seeing companies tokenizing properties, not only in securing provenance, but also enabling investors acquire and trade fractional assets. So it means that I don't necessarily need to have $500,000, $50,000 to invest in property. We've also seen in Dubai, for instance, where they explore NFTs to promote tourism and landmarks by auctioning NFTs that represent actual assets. So recently, my team and I did a research on the Jos Wildlife Park. We also went as far as even engaging the NTDC, that's the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation. And what we realized is that the plateau is blessed with rich tourist attractions, for instance. And so imagine Plateau being one of the Just Wildlife Park, for instance, being one of the largest zoological gardens in Nigeria, right? Covering about over 8 square kilometers. But we are also aware of how the social unrest, the economic unrest in the north, has sort of hindered and also caused an adverse effect on the economy in terms of tourism development. So imagine a situation where the Plateau State government leverages NFTs. So a scenario would be creating NFTs that represent fractional ownership of a tourist attraction. Take for instance the Just Wildlife Park. So it means that this could also attract foreign investments and even sort of create some sort of digital access. So it means that people around the world can sort of contribute to that conservation effort from anywhere that you are, just by owning a fraction of that tourist attraction. And in terms of digital access, it means that I don't need to visit the plateau to experience some of the tourist attractions. So imagine an infusion of virtual VR technology and the blockchain. So it means I can be in Singapore, I can be in Japan, and experience the wildlife in Plateau just by having that NFT that gives me some sort of digital access to experience the beauty of the wildlife conservation. And this also makes it possible to attract foreign investment and foreign participation in the tourism sector in Nigeria. And what I also believe is that this completely democratizes fractional investment while also promoting inclusion and participation of various income classes. So it means that I don't need to have all the money to be able to invest in real estate, for instance. I can invest, leveraging NFTs that promote fractional ownership. And that also definitely brings in some sort of liquidity into the ecosystem as well. And so the second and last case study I would touch on would be e-governance and digital identity. And as we've also seen being implemented in Estonia, I mean, the world is going digital. The world is becoming a global village, a smaller one at that, and which is also facilitated by advancements in technology, in communications. And it also means that digital identity is becoming an indispensable element, which can be addressed by NFT technologies. And so as we use our physical identity documents today, our ID cards, to verify who we are, for instance, in real life, it means that as the digital economy continues to evolve, we also need to pay more attention to digital assets, digital IDs. And so NFT technology can play a crucial role in this, in verifying the authenticity of individuals in digital spaces, as well as reputation, and also accessing privileges across various digital platforms. It could be in terms of preventing identity fraud or even delivering public services. So talk about digital voting. Someone talked, the DG talked about implementing blockchain technology in certifying our NYC certificates, academic certifications as well. And so this definitely promotes more transparent governance. And as the world becomes a global village, the importance of digital identity cannot be overemphasized. And I believe that governments have a unique opportunity to leverage this NFT technology to provide secure, portable, and self-sovereign digital identity solutions. But what I'll say is, in closing, is that strategizing is only one thing. It's been an amazing conversation so far, but also implementation, and we've heard that a lot today, is where the real work lies. And I believe that there's still a lot that we have to do in terms of research and development when it comes to innovation, and also implementing fair policies, best practices that protect stakeholders, protect investors, and even end users, while ensuring that we keep our economic development top of mind. And I believe that innovation will continue to precede regulation, and which is why we're all here gathered to see how we can work towards advancement and implementation of the national blockchain policy. and discussing various use cases of which I'm really excited about. And because adoption cannot truly happen unless there's a need for this technology. Hence why I know that we've been having a lot of conversations around potential use cases. And so finally, I know that as we continue to explore these use cases, as we continue to experiment, we'll begin to see broader adoption and positive contribution as well. And so I'd like to, before I leave, just say a big thank you to Nita, CBAN, and all stakeholders that were involved in putting this together. It just really shows the commitment to digital innovation, and it's really amazing to see that we're here at a moment like this. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this intellectual dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you. Okay. So next, finally, for this session, and also finally for the event, because after now we're taking the vote of thanks and closing remarks from the president of CBAN, Obina Iwono. So finally, let's have Adetutu Tony Dada. Please put your hands together for her as she comes up the stage. Please keep clapping. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and all protocols observed. I'm honored to be speaking here today. My voice is a bit gone because I've been excited saying hello to people I've not seen in a while. I'll be talking about case study on finance and how blockchain is relevant to that aspect. Now, the first speaker made mention of cross-border payments, and it's a really burning concern when it comes to finance. Now, imagine you are a global company, you're making payroll outside currencies, you're making euro, pounds, dollars, Indian shillings, South African rand. How do you need to manage all these currencies? How do you ensure you have the right cash at the right time? I'm saying I've experienced it, and it's really tough. It's very difficult moving money from outside Nigeria into Nigeria or into Africa because of the list. It's also another challenge moving money from Nigeria or any African country because of all the processes you have to go through, the cost of moving these funds as well. And even though the cross-border payment industry is worth $156 trillion, it's something that we really need to also harness that opportunity and explore more in that space. Also, SWIFT has started testing DLT, that's distributed ledger technology, that China and changing. They don't want to be left behind as well. Then I'll also come to the use of finance or blockchain for enhanced AML KYC. If we're able to have a decentralized identity on the chain, the BVN we currently use, or EMIN, it still doesn't give all the information you need. If you go to another bank to get maybe a mortgage, you still need to submit all the documents. If you move to another lending facility or lending house, you still need to bring the same documents. So having decentralized identity, just like the last speaker, also works. And I'll take it a step further. When it comes to financial instruments, it's also another opportunity that can be explored. Let's talk about issuing treasury bills, issuing government corporate state bonds on blockchain. And the benefit of this is that even equities, and this is where tokenization comes into place as well. Now, if you've bought equities in name, not the one that is not the one we buy and we get just a fraction in batch like no really. You find out that it takes about 2 to 3 days to settle. And in the process of this, you move money through one way, the security also moves through another way. When I started the banking industry around 2007, 2008, it was a bit more challenging having to settle securities because we had one system for RTGS to move the funds, you had another system to securities. Over time, the infrastructure involved, we go to escrow, we go out to DBF. As soon as they settle in, we get to the payment. Now, let's imagine we are able to also transfer this process onto the blockchain. What does it do for our markets? It brings our markets together. We're able to have more efficient marketing, sense that settlement is faster, especially for equities. Where you don't have to wait for 2 days, 3 days to have it settled. Even money moving and still taking time to get your title. And by the time you now think about decentralized identity, you think about having these financial instruments on the blockchain, and I'll talk about syndicated lending. Now, syndicated lending in the sense that a lot of agents come together, or a lot of financial institutions, to take up a project. And how is it beneficial to our economy? If we want to encourage FDI, this is a form of technology that is also favorable to us, in the sense that once we have this on the blockchain, we can also screen our investors, and we're able to allow investors come in easily. I can see the transparency in the use of the funds. This will also bring about a good process for syndicated lending, in the sense that we don't have to wait for longer periods of time, longer periods to manage documents, and overall we're going to have better and efficient financial markets, and also allow us to have access to financial instruments without having to go through the hassles of everything that we're talking about. So my last point today, and because we can very rounding up, talk about how JP Morgan is also looking at settling financial instruments as well. They launched Onyx in 2020, and till date, they've been able to process $700 billion worth of transactions on that smart contract. Now, the potential for this, say by 2020, is about $5 trillion. And by harnessing the opportunities of this technology, is something that we would also want to be left out of. It's something that we also want to be caught up with our peers in the global environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so if you made it this far, kudos to you. Please put your hands together for yourself. You made it this far. With that, we need the seats. Alright, so finally, we're going to welcome the current president of CBAN, Mr. Obina Iwono, to give his closing remarks. And then after that, we can all go out to get lunch. Please put your hands together for him as he comes forward. Just keep clapping till he gets here. It's a very short time.
Thank you very much. Wow, this has been a most phenomenal engagement, and I want to thank every one of you who made it. Some people traveled from different places. Some people traveled, from within Nigeria, and some people from outside Nigeria, literally, just to be at this event. And so it's not taken for granted. And we want to also extend my profound thanks, to NIDA and the Director General and team from NIDA for putting up this wonderful event for us and collaborating with us and always answering us whenever we call. And for this reason, you would never call us that we will not answer. At least as long as I am the president of CBAN, that is one assurance that I'm going to give to you. For my wonderful MCs, the moderators, the hosts, all of the panelists, thank you so much for contributing your wealth of experience and sharing with us deep insights. And for all of the officials who I can see busy taking notes, showing that this is a very serious engagement, and that implementation is the next step. I want to thank you so much. For all of the founders and the builders and the innovators that made it to this event, I want to thank you so much. Some people even canceled their trips just to be at this event. I want to thank you so much. And for all of the people that I am meeting for the first time, I want to thank you so much. The list of thanks is so long, right? It's so long. Everybody who has contributed one way or the other to make this event a success, thank you very much. And like I said, every single person here today, you are a representative of your blockchain constituency. And as we live here today, what are you going to do to improve your blockchain constituency? Because now we are building a blockchain world. We are building Nigeria on blockchain technology. It is one technology that is going to accelerate our economic development. It's going to accelerate our effectiveness in governance. It's going to accelerate the efficiency of our private enterprises. The blockchain technology holds immense benefits for us, and the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And this is why we must be very voracious in our pursuit and adoption of blockchain technology. The goal here is to take blockchain technology to the mainstream. All right? Until blockchain technology gets to the mainstream, we have not achieved so much. We want to make Nigeria the #1 blockchain hub in Africa and one of the top 5 in the world. We have already made that first bold move by becoming the first country in Africa to have a national blockchain roadmap. And that is very laudable and commendable. And so now that we have taken that bold move, we need to continue making those consistent steps. Being #1 is not the thing, it's staying #1 that is the work. All right? So let us not come to a point where we say we used to be the #1, but we are the #1 to do it, we are the first to do it. No, we will always continually say we have something new. Look what we have done, right? For us to be respected globally, we must begin to build solutions and not sit back and become consumers. It wouldn't still make any sense to me that blockchain technology is just 14 years old and we are being programmed to become a consumer continent. If other countries in Africa accept it, Nigeria totally rejects it. And I know that you are all with me. True of us? Good. So what we have rejected is that we will not be consumers in the blockchain ecosystem, but we will be producers, we will be innovators, we will be solution providers, we will be a global participator, contributor, and a strong force. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. On behalf of CBAN, I know that so many of you who are here are not members of CBAN, but you are players in the blockchain ecosystem, right? The folder that has been shared with you contains information on how you can become a member of CBAN. Join our progressive ecosystem. Let us build this industry together. All right? All the information that you need is there. If you need more information, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Emeka. There are a lot of CBAN members in this room. So I would enjoy you today. Bring your organization and join CBAN, let's build together. As an individual, come and join CBAN, let's build together. And let's see you at the Digital Asset Summit on the 6th and 7th of September in Abuja at NAFS Conference Center. It's going to be one kind of event that you have never seen. This is not your normal blockchain event. No, this is on another level. So come, bring your companies, come and exhibit. We want to see what you are doing. The government is going to be there. Global partners are going to be there. So they want to see what you are doing. They want to know what you are doing. So we have provided this platform and opportunity. All of the information that you need is on there. And like I would always say, NIDA is the most collaborative government agency that I have ever encountered. And I'm not saying all right, so, and we have put up opportunities for you to exhibit your product, your brand, your company, your organization. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to Emeka or you reach out to Dorcas. Dorcas is over there. All right, they will give you all you are going to be needing, and we have made it very easy for all who wants to participate and created a global platform for us to, push this thing. All right, and one thing again that I would like to encourage us to do, like I said, I was talking about NIDA. That NIDA is the most collaborative government agency that I have met. Not only that, I experienced a level of excellence. It is not to make NIDA feel good, it's the fact. I've been to different government agencies, and what I saw at NIDA threw me off balance. And I was asking myself, are you sure this is a government agency, or they just contracted these people from different foreign organizations to come and run this agency? And it was phenomenal. So whenever you see anything from NIDA, please engage. If you see a tweet from NIDA, engage. If you see a project NIDA is carrying out, engage. If NIDA puts out any program, they are sharing any benefits, please send it out. They always have trainings, collaboration, to upskill people in technology. Put it out there, because these things are for Nigerians. The more people see it, the more they take advantage of it. All right? So let us help. We want everything to go right in our country. So when we see anyone who is doing it right, we'll give them all of our support. And I'm enjoining all of you to also do likewise. All right? So thank you, everybody. Now, the members of the National Implementation and Steering Committee, if you're a member, you know that you're a member. So you remember that we have a meeting tomorrow, all right? So please do not miss it and do not come late, so that we can, start on time and finish in time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Engineer Kaka. Thank you, the rest of the team from Leader. Thank you, Dada. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Ayodele. He was the first person to come and sit here with me yesterday. Even before he went to his hotel, he was with me here to see that we set up. Samshu and Samuel, they also came and they were with me here, and we all worked together as one team. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, President. And just to wrap up, please remember to visit cban.org.ng to apply to be a CBAN member. And our social media, we're active on Twitter, official CBAN. Look out for us. And also on LinkedIn, do follow us. Let's engage the industry together, and NIDA is open to partner with us. And that is why we have this collaboration. Thank you for coming. It's time for lunch.